Here's what the Republicans will say. By the way, they called FDR a communist, too. They called him a communist in disguise. And they called that Dr. King that, too. Two of the greatest leaders of the 20th century. But here they'll say, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? Now, take it from the guy from Silicon Valley. I've got a clear idea. Tax the billionaires. All 989 of them. That's not the 1%. That's not the 0.1%. It's not the 0.01%. It's the 0.001%. And you tax them at 5%, you raise $4 trillion. Some say, Roe, you're calling for taxing the billionaires. It's class warfare. I've got news for them. The billionaires have already been waging a class war. They are decimating unions. They are outsourcing jobs. They are putting costs of homes out of reach. America has been in a 5 decades class war since the 1970s. It's time to get off the sidelines and show whose side we are on.
Yeah. The next president of the United States of America, Ro Khanna. What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Another exciting day in Donald Trump's America, guys. We got some Sunday shows to watch. Some socialists went on the Sunday shows, like Chris Rabb and this Oliver Larkin guy, who's trying to defeat our king, Jared Moskowitz, on Tuesday. Not going to happen. Then we got Todd Blanche on Meet the Press. And Hakeem Jeffries on Meet the Press. So we got some stuff. We got some good interviews to check out. I'm almost done with my background. Let me show you guys. I've been having a lot of fun with this. Got my lamp. You guys see the progress. Got all my posters. Just need a couple knickknacks to make it look more realistic, like a flyer attached to the cabinet kind of thing, you know. But hopefully this inspires me to start doing some YouTube videos. I got a lamp. I got a light bulb for the lamp that I can lower because I think it's a little intense right now. So I haven't had a chance to install that yet, but that's one of the last things. Got my Obama in there. Not as many posters. No, I think the goal was to let the prominent posters breathe a little. You know, the goal was never just to have a wall of posters, but to have meaning behind them. And so with ChatGPT's guidance and artistry, I was able to come up with this idea of not just throwing a million posters on the wall, but having some intentionality to the posters. So I think it's good. And then I have my wall over here. That's just kind of like my history wall with press passes and the rubber bullet I got hit with at a protest in 2020 and just showing my history. So that's it. Just having some fun with it. And I'm going to make a scene so I can chill when I just want to talk and hang out and let the chat be on screen a little bit with alerts, but I don't have that yet. I also shortened the alerts for $10 and $20. So the Obama, I just have a quicker version of that now and a quicker version of the Carry the Flame alert. You guys have been so crazy with the alerts that I try to speed them up a little bit. I made those when we weren't getting as many super chats and stuff like that. So our YouTube has grown. Our YouTube community has grown and the love is flourishing. So we try to not take away from the content too much. Your background doesn't look like an IKEA set. Yeah, the goal was to have like a campaign office feel. And to be realistic, not to just have shelves and, you know, some tchotchkes from TJ Maxx. every YouTube background looks the same. It's like dark with a couple of colored lights, maybe some accent lights, and then, you know, random objects that mean nothing back there. So hopefully I can honor my old background with the wall of posters, but just with more meaning behind the placement of every poster. It's been taking a while to do this. I'm glad I did, though. I upgraded the camera. I hadn't done that in 5 years. 2021 is when I got my last camera, so this is a huge upgrade. The lighting, I've got this giant, real non-LED light that has the light wrapping around my face properly, so we're stepping up our game here. Point of privilege, those posters are overstimulating. Understood. We'll see what we can do to accommodate our disabled comrades like you. The Obama really makes it all fit. Yeah, the Obama's just kind of fun. I bought that. I don't know why I bought that on C-SPAN's shop, but it's like Obama as president with sort of a looser style suit from the early, well, I guess the the late 2000s, mid 2010s, right? 10 years ago, 12, 15 years ago. And I never had any reason to have it in the background until I moved here. I was able to fit it now that I have a dedicated room for streaming. So happy to have it back there. We all love Obama. Brings back good memories. He's actually the most popular politician in America to this day. Not in office, but just in general. But why not get him back there? All right. Enough about me. I want to hear from this social. Well, I'll save that actually. Let's go to Meet the Press first.
This Sunday, rule of law. President Trump's former personal defense lawyer takes on his new role as Attorney General.
I want people who want to do the right thing every day.
How will he use the power of the Justice Department? I'll talk to newly confirmed Attorney General Todd Blanche. And
I tell you, man, the history books are going to be so fascinating about this period of politics in our history, man. These people are the most corrupt, useless individuals to ever hold these offices. It is fascinating to live through it. If it wasn't so terrifying and so sad at the carnage that they are causing and just the lack of interest in solving our problems and the self-enrichment, it would just be the most hilarious thing ever, you know. But these people are something else, man. This guy, former defense lawyer, barely got in there, squeaked into the office, and wait till you see what he says in this interview. It's just outrageous. You know, the Attorney General is supposed to be kept at an arm's distance from the president. Yes, the Department of Justice is under the executive branch, but there's a reason why the president doesn't get involved, because the public needs to trust what the DOJ does. Otherwise, you cannot rule properly and your democracy suffers. I mean, you can't have the president dictating the investigations of his Department of Justice. They have to stay away from each other. How are we going to teach this era of history to our children? Well, hopefully it'll be a distant memory.
And party lines.
Thank you, Minnesota!
With just 11 weeks until the midterms, Democrats are being pulled in two directions as they fight for a path back to power.
The many just won.
Our focus right.
I don't think this is true. The media can try to play this up all they want, but I think when the 120th Congress is sworn in January, that they will be united. Or at the very least, there'll be a couple of people making a little noise with minimal success. Right now, there's nothing else to talk about, and Democrats are completely out of power. So they are vulnerable to populists coming in and saying these Democrats suck, they can't do anything. And people are still stinging from the Kamala loss and the end of Biden's administration, and just all the problems that came with that. The border, the inflation, they just haven't seen who the Democrats are since Kamala lost, but they're about to find out. They're about to see him. So my point is, I think this is short-lived, this moment, really a matter of months. I could be totally wrong, but it just makes sense to me. I mean, think about how the news works. They focus on what's exciting and right in front of them. And when the Democrats get control of the House, how could they continue this line of this narrative of, oh, it's all about the Civil War in the Democratic Party, when there'll be so many other things to talk about that are so juicy and tantalizing and exciting, like the investigations into Trump and who's running what and who got subpoenaed and all that. Do we really think we can go back to normal? I think we can. It's a new normal. It'll never be the same again. I think politicians will be on social media a lot more, and they will tailor their governing with that in mind and the new attention span that people have. I mean, I read a story about how movies and TV shows made for streaming are written with the idea that people will check their phone after like 10 minutes. I just made that up, the 10 minutes, but that people get distracted and start looking away. So they're constantly reminding people of the storyline and who people are, and just catering to a very easily distractible audience. And so politicians are going to have to navigate that as well and keep people's attention. I think they're getting better at it. Democrats are a little behind because they care more about making people's lives better instead of just capturing their attention, but they're catching up very quickly. Can't go back because it got this way because it was the old normal. Yep.
Right now is making sure that we.
The thing that bums me out is I know this is going to happen when the Democrats win in 2028 and take over. Right now, everybody wants them to go after Trump and destroy and hold them accountable. But I know that within like 6 months to a year, there'll be other things going on. There'll be other crises. There'll be other problems to deal with that are right in front of us. And it'll quickly fade. The Trump administration and the damage they did and all the crime will quickly fade from the public eye, and there won't be a lot of demand to go after these guys. People will be they'll just not be as interested in that, and the momentum won't be there. And that bums me out because it'll take years to hold all these people accountable if you focus on it. And I just don't think it's going to happen. I think it'll kind of happen, but sadly, the public won't give the support that the Democrats need to really stay focused on it and put some of these people in prison. And, 3-4 years after the Democrats take over, if they put some people in prison, people will remember. They'll just kind of shrug like, oh my God, I remember Stephen Miller. That guy was crazy. Wow, he's going to prison? Dang. That's cool. That's interesting. Like, these characters will be so far distant from people's memories that it won't even matter. So I hate to tell people, and I've been telling you guys this for a while now, you're not going to get the satisfaction you want of locking these people up and putting them in prison. I just don't see it happening. Plus, Trump's going to pardon everybody. So I'm more, but that doesn't blackpill me because I'm focused on what good can come out of this, what the Democrats can do with the momentum on the other side of Trump to rebuild these agencies and help people and pass amazing policy and put guardrails in place to prevent that from ever happening again. For me, that's more than good enough. I'd love to see people go to prison. I'd love to see people punished, but I've convinced myself it ain't going to happen. And it's not because the Democrats don't want to. It's not like, oh, Gavin Newsom's going to forgive Trump and to heal the nation, he's going to move on. No, it's the public's not going to give a damn. People have no No attention span. You think they're going to care about the Trump administration a year into a new Democratic administration? I don't. Not at all.
And he voted for Obama.
So what you're saying is same price for less alert.
Yep.
Sounds like guyflation. Sounds like I'm really expensive. Sounds like guynomics. I'm just kidding. Don't ban me. I'm really sorry. Also Ossoff, USA emoji, cool face emoji.
What's with the freaking sorry from our TTS guy? What a traitor, man. I thought he was American. Guy Dinez, thank you for the $10 super chat. Listen, the point is to get to your message, okay? The meat of the alert more quickly. That's it. Thank you. I appreciate it. I will ban you now.
Win as many seats as we can.
Can Democrats unite before November? I'll talk to House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries and Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna of California. Plus, flight risk, the secret flight that helped President Trump evade an Iranian threat.
This is ridiculous, man. I hope we talk about this for longer. Trump, like, the more I think about it, the more infuriating this story is. Like, he should have never let Air Force One fly. What they should have done is they should have snuck Trump onto the other plane and then landed that plane in Britain, and then Trump get out and say, I couldn't tell anybody there was a threat, but I didn't want to risk anyone or anything, so I just flew. And then nobody's going to attack Air Force One if Trump's not on it anymore, right? But why use it as a decoy? What was the plan there? Like, well, there's no other way to prevent Air Force One from possibly being blown up, so might as well just remove Trump and a couple people from it. And then if it gets blown up, it gets blown up. It's like, why not just keep it grounded and then show Trump's not on it later and just say, yeah, we took some serious precautions. You could even have made up a story that there was some sort of, you know, mechanical problem or something. So, but we didn't want people to know Trump was on a less secure plane. I mean, why? I just don't understand the thinking behind this. As if the rest of his staff is expendable in the media. I mean, outrageous. Why risk it in any way at all? I just don't understand the reasoning behind flying Air Force One as a decoy. Not like Trump cares about the bill. I don't know. I just don't get it. What did I do? Hell? Clicked on something that screwed up my screen. Oh, I see. Drops. Who cares about drops?
Decoy plane, a catering truck, and a secret switch on the tarmac in Turkey.
I don't worry about anything, to be honest. Whatever it is, you know my attitude? Whatever.
Joining me for insight and analysis are Jonathan Martin of Politico, former Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson, and Republican strategist Sarah Fagan. Welcome to Sunday. It's Meet the Press.
From NBC News in Washington, the longest-running show in television history, this is Meet the Press with Kristen Welker.
Good Sunday morning. We are just 79 days until the midterm elections, and both parties are facing a test. Democrats are racing to unite a party pulled between its progressive and moderate wings, while Republicans face rising gas prices and an Iran war that is getting harder to control. And it's against that backdrop that Todd Blanche has gone from President Trump's personal lawyer to the man now in charge of the Justice Department. He survived a bruising confirmation fight, including Republican opposition over President Trump's so-called anti-weaponization fund. Now the test: can Blanche run the Justice Department independently of the president he once represented? This week, the new Attorney General made this promise.
I promise you that I will lead this department with integrity. I promise you that I will focus on our core mission, which is to uphold the rule of law fairly and impartially, to keep this great country safe, and to protect the rights of every citizen in this country. It's a promise that we're going to uphold the law without fear or favor.
Amazing. What a stand-up citizen, man. We need to give him a clean slate now that he's officially the Attorney General. Give him a chance. Surely he'll do the right thing.
And joining me now is Attorney General Todd Blanche. Mr. Attorney General, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. We
course.
appreciate your being here in person. As we just heard in your address to the Justice Department staff this week, you said you and DOJ will, quote, uphold the law without fear or favor. You, of course, used to be President Trump's former personal defense attorney. Can you pledge that the Justice Department will always act independently of the White House?
Well, there's a big difference between saying we will always do our job and investigate any case and act independently of the White House. No, I'm not going to pledge that. And no attorney general should ever pledge that. The president, I mean, if I were to pledge I will be independent of the White House, what that means is that if President Trump says, I want the Department of Justice to go after every violent criminal in this country, which is what he has said, what you're saying to me is I should say, no, sir, I'm not going to do it. So I will act with integrity.
Nice
Our
straw man.
prosecutors will act with integrity. We will prosecute without fear or any sort of favor. And that's exactly what we've been doing, and that's what every Department of Justice should do.
Well, I guess big picture, if the president asks you to do something that you feel crosses an ethical or legal line, would you do it?
The president will never ask me to do something unethical or legal or illegal. He never has. He never will. And no, I swore to the Constitution of the United States, like every cabinet secretary has done, and like every attorney general before me has done. And so, this narrative that's mostly pushed by the left and pushed by the media, that the president's going to pull me aside and ask me to do something illegal, is completely a false narrative, not true, will not happen, and hasn't happened.
Okay, let's delve into how you do see your tenure.
Why would you not trust him, man? He seems like such an honest guy. Why would he lie to us? Come on.
You appeared with President Trump at the Nassau County Police Academy on Friday. You made some comments that did get a lot of attention. I want to play it, get your reaction on the other side. Take a look.
My administration and my Department of Justice.
Buddy, amigo, I really want you to not go after my enemies. Can you not do that? Thanks.
Yeah, specifically, don't go after these guys. That would be wrong. Really don't want you to go after this guy. Exactly.
If anybody touches a federal law enforcement officer in any way inappropriate, we will prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law.
Wow. Whoa, brave. That definitely didn't happen under Biden. That's crazy, man. Thank God. Groundbreaking. Incredible. Yeah. Oh my God, dude. That is wow. I mean, these federal officers have been getting beat down for years with no punishment for the perpetrator at all. This is huge.
And yet, Mr. Attorney General, on President Trump's first day in office, as you know, he pardoned everyone who attacked the Capitol on January.
This is a great follow. And yet, sir, he pardoned hundreds of people who committed violence against police officers.
6th, including 172 people who pleaded guilty to assaulting police officers. How is that consistent with your pledge to always protect law enforcement?
There's nothing inconsistent about that. The president's pardon powers, any president's pardon powers, are not limited. So when I say, and when this Department of Justice says, and when the FBI says, like we're saying, and every U.S. attorney is saying, that if you assault law enforcement, we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law,
That is, he's telling the truth. So if you assault an officer, you're going to get prosecuted. It just so happens my boss will pardon you and give you a pass. That's all. That's so, you know, that's not part of this. That's not a big part of the story. Okay. It's like that's like an aside thing. We will prosecute.
Absolutely what President Trump expects. Absolutely what I expect of our prosecutors, and that's completely separate from any president's ability to pardon.
But
any president's ability. No, she's asking you about Trump pardoning people who beat cops just a year and a half ago, dude. What are you talking about, man? We will prosecute those people, and then Trump will pardon them. Yes, I can't control that.
He did the opposite of that effectively. I mean, on January 6th, police officers were beaten with baseball bats and flagpoles. Do you believe it was wrong to pardon the people who assaulted police officers on January 6th, given that you have vowed to protect law enforcement?
Every attorney general vows to protect law enforcement, including me. And so, no, I'm not opining or in any way saying what President Trump did is wrong. Absolutely not. By the way,
isn't it inconsistent with what you said, though? Is
absolutely
it inconsistent
not. There's
with
a
your
difference.
pledge?
No, there's a difference between saying we will prosecute anybody. If later a president chooses to pardon that individual, that is the president's right under our Constitution. Do not forget that a few days before President Trump pardoned the individuals associated and who had pled guilty to the conduct on January 6th, President Biden pardoned hundreds and hundreds of criminals, many of whom were quite violent. So that's
not who beat cops, not cop beaters. No, sir. Those were not, I don't know what he's talking about, who were quite violent. Biden had parameters. He pardoned thousands of people in one fell swoop, but there were parameters. They had to be nonviolent, and I think it was related to marijuana. Nonviolent, first time, and related to marijuana. Also, a lot of these people were old and were close to getting out. It's not like Biden pardoned murderers who had served 2 years of a 40-year sentence or something. But just more bullshit from these clowns.
his right to do that, just like it's President Trump's right to do that.
But what message does it send to police officers that people who assaulted them were pardoned?
The message to police officers is consistent and same every single day, which is that we will protect you. And by the way, that's a little bit interesting coming from a place where we see violent protests breaking out all over the country, in New Jersey, in Minneapolis, in Seattle, in California. And instead of there being a full-throated defense by leadership on the Democrat side, on the Republican side, what you have is it's as if we're doing something wrong by saying we will protect law enforcement and we will prosecute those who assault law enforcement. We're not.
What? What's he talking about? I thought he was talking about like ICE protests, but then he mentioned law enforcement being assaulted. I don't get it. The only violent protests I've seen are people reacting to like the National Guard being deployed or ICE harassing and killing people, but the vast majority of those protests have not been violent. Don't know what he's talking about. Straw man central over here.
On this issue of January 6th, your confirmation was actually held up over the so-called anti-weaponization fund. I just want to remind folks what that means. That would have effectively paid people who felt they were in some ways wronged by the federal government and could have included people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. You signed a document, you testified under oath that the fund is dead. But President Trump has said he wishes it weren't. If the president asks you to revive the fund, will you tell him no?
Well, the president has said it's dead as well. So you can, and as the president has said, that he very strongly believes that those that had this Department of Justice weaponized against them should be compensated. That he's going to continue to say that.
He said it's up to you. He was just asked about it. He said effectively it's up to you what to do about this.
So, and I've said repeatedly it's dead. And he has also said it's dead. He said it in a cabinet meeting with the press there. And so I think there's this. It might be enjoyable for the media to continually ask me about whether the fund is really dead. And there is no fund. No money went from the Treasury to any account. There were no commissioners established. And so there is no fund. There will be no fund. I've said it repeatedly. And the different angles coming almost every time I speak with the media is someone says, well, wait, is it really dead? And I say, yes, it is. And then the next interview I give, somebody will say to me, is it really dead? And I promise you I will say, yes, it is dead.
So
okay, the problem, Todd, is that your boss keeps posting on social media about it. That's the problem, sir.
You're saying you rule out ever reviving it, but just to be very clear, can you guarantee that under your Department of Justice, anyone who attacked the Capitol on January 6th will not receive one dime of taxpayer money if they file a claim against the federal government?
Well, anybody can file a claim against the federal government, not just anybody associated with January 6th. I'm not going to sit here and say on a news program whether a litigation that may or may not happen will result.
Obama.
More for Slotkin.
Jaws with the $10 super chat. Alyssa Slotkin getting some love. Okay. Look at her. She's in 9th place right now. Bit of a dark horse. Just want to make sure that Winter, yep, counted. Hell yeah.
And money, I can't do that. So what I will say is that there's a process in place for decades where somebody that believes they've been wronged or a tort's been committed against them by the federal government can seek redress. And I'm, beyond that, I'm not going to comment about hypotheticals of what will happen in any of those cases.
So potentially.
So this is true from what I've read. The DOJ already has a system where you can make a claim and they can settle and just give you money. The difference between that and the slush fund, the $1.8 billion slush fund, is to get a settlement from the DOJ, there's a whole process. They have to prove that they would lose in court and that it would cost them more to take it to trial. And so they have to jump through some hoops, making it harder. But they do basically have an unlimited pot to give money from if they can go through that process for all the people they want. Whereas Trump would have just been able to use his DOJ to dole out money through that $1.8 billion fund.
They could get paid under another stream of government funding, but not the anti-weaponization
Well, I don't know what,
fund.
when you say they could get paid, what is their claim? Is it somebody
The
who pled
Justice
guilty?
Department's judgment fund.
No. So right, but when you say they could get paid, anybody who sues the federal government could get paid. It depends on the facts. It depends on the circumstances. It depends on what it's alleged the government did. And so I don't know the circumstances of any hypothetical case, and I'm not going to comment on a hypothetical case today, but there is a process in place where if you believe that you've had a tort committed against you by the government, whether it's slipping on ice outside of a federal post office or a law enforcement officer assaulting you, you are allowed to seek compensation.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so depressing watching this guy because this stuff is all so stupid, man. Think about all the crime that's happening out there, all of the criminals getting away with horrific things, all the investigations falling to the wayside, the lack of interest in keeping the public safe, just serving Trump, taking questions about some stupid slush fund that should have never happened to reward cop beaters. I mean, it's so depressing. I knew this was going to happen the second Trump won. I knew in November that our country will survive. Our democracy will survive. We'll be fine. We'll laugh about this 20 years from now. But we're just going to tread water like idiots for 4 years with Trump in the White House, putting all these useless morons in these positions of power. And people will suffer because of this as they enrich themselves and do whatever the hell they want, going after their enemies. But
howdy, folks. Happy Sunday. I'm hearing lefty media is getting all excited about this guy Oliver Larkin versus Moskowitz.
Ooh.
I really think they should temper their expectations there.
I agree.
Not really sure what the strategy is. Larkin is going to get whomped.
Yeah, I don't know how Oliver Larkin wins in that district. I looked it up. It was R+4. The last DSA candidate that ran against a Democrat in a competitive district was in Arizona's 4th congressional district, I believe it was, a couple of weeks ago. Guy named Kai Newkirk, and he got creamed. He got completely beat up, and he was similar to this Oliver Larkin guy. He wasn't on TV as much, but very similar, and that was a D+4. And now you got an R+4 district. Twice as hard, arguably, than the D+4 district, and this guy's gonna win? I don't know, man. I don't know about that. But that's on Tuesday. We'll keep an eye on it. Should be interesting.
Let's talk about a case that was recently brought before the Justice Department. The DOJ dropped charges against the Olympic canoeist that it accused of vandalizing the reflecting pool on the National Mall, saying the damage was caused by, quote, botched installation and not vandalism. President Trump, though, said U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro was wrong and that she should revisit the case. Do you?
Just more waste of time. I don't even point a finger at the media here. They're doing what they have to do. I mean, there's really nothing else going on here for them to talk about. This administration is so useless that we're on the biggest Sunday show, Meet the Press, talking to the Attorney General about the reflecting pool slasher. Yeah. Like, come on, man. This is so idiotic. But again, what else do they have to work with here?
Support Jeanine Pirro dropping the case, or do you support President Trump's calls to revive the case?
Yes, I absolutely support U.S. Attorney Pirro, as does President Trump. Now, that's different than whether the president is extraordinarily frustrated at what happened in that case. And I don't in any way fault him for that. And by the way, the filings didn't say that all of the damage was done by faulty construction. OK, so that's where there's some, the media is getting some of the reporting wrong.
Well, it said.
What an idiot, man. Like, Trump's own Interior Department said that the damage was caused by the construction. The contractors screwed it up. That is why Judge Jeanine Pirro, the U.S. attorney, dropped the case. And this idiot is still arguing that there was some vandalism.
The damage was done as a result of a botched installation and not vandalism as initially represented.
There was potential vandalism, and we know that there was vandalism because there's witnesses. That's also in the brief that you're citing, that there's witnesses that talked about the fact that there was vandalism.
What do you mean by potential vandalism?
Well, there's a witness that said, I observed the defendant vandalizing the reflecting pool.
Then why did Jeanine Pirro drop the case, sir? Like, not even against the former Olympian, the big famous case. There was also 5 other people charged with vandalism that had their cases dropped too.
Now, that's different than whether ultimately we had the proof, and you saw what U.S. Attorney Pirro said about that in her filings. And I said this before, we're talking about a single case, okay? We're talking about one case. We had another case of vandalism against a memorial earlier this week. This is horrible, what's happening in our nation's capital with some of these really, really sick people vandalizing our national monuments. And U.S. Attorney Pirro is doing a phenomenal job of enforcing that, going after anybody who's doing it. And I think judging her on a single case because of the evidence that we had is not fair.
Should the president have a voice in individual prosecution decisions at all?
Every American has a voice in prosecutions. I mean, we hear from Americans all the time. As a matter of fact, many of our investigations start with an American citizen coming forward and saying they saw something. And so whether President Trump should have a, quote, voice, it depends.
Would you take his opinions into consideration when he says, I think this case should be revived? Will you take that into consideration?
So hold on. Will I take the President of the United States' view on something into consideration? Yes, of course. And I hope every attorney general in history would not answer that question differently. Just let's play that out. The President of the United States, the elected President of the United States, says something to me, and I'm supposed to say to you, I would say, nope. I mean, that's not the way it works. Now, the President is extraordinarily, every day he wakes up with one mission, which is making this country better. And as it relates to me, making this country safer. So if he has a view on that, he talks about it on social media, he talks about it when he speaks to the American people. That's certainly something that I listen to.
I'm asking in part because we did see this clash play out in his first term. Bill Barr, the Attorney General during President Trump's first term, did push back against President Trump in 2020. As you recall, he told him his election claims were detached from reality. If you were faced with a similar situation, something that you did not think actually met the standard, the legal standard in your mind, would you stand up to the president?
I mean, so I will always stand up for what's right. And I do not, the president does not expect any of his leaders, including me, to just say yes to him no matter what he says. And so, of course, there's vigorous back and forth with every cabinet member in the president of the United States, which is exactly what President Trump expects. And there again, there is this extraordinarily false narrative that the president wakes up in the morning and calls me and says, Todd, go prosecute X or Y. He does not do that. He has never done that. He will never do that. And so if there's something that he wants to do, but he needs to know that there's a challenge or that we can't do it, of course I will tell him. It happens all the time with all of his leaders, and that's what he expects.
I would bet $1,000 that in the next year, we will see evidence of exactly that. Some message from Trump to Todd Blanche saying to prosecute somebody. Almost guaranteed. We saw it with Pam Bondi, where he tried to send a private message and posted it publicly, telling her to prosecute. So I almost guarantee in the next year we will see some communication between Trump and Blanche, whether it be phone call, written, whatever, something caught on a mic, hot mic, of Trump telling Blanche to do prosecute somebody. Guarantee.
The issues that he really cares about, the midterms. And there's been a lot of focus on the midterms as it relates to the Justice Department, which has lost 22 cases trying to force states to turn over their voter rolls. State officials have pushed back against those moves. They say
including red states, by the way. Idaho, not a blue state. Idaho is, I believe, involved in a lawsuit against the Trump administration because they don't want to give up their voter rolls. Let me see. Idaho lawsuit, voter roll. Justice Department sues Idaho for failure to produce voter rolls. Idaho. Trump's DOJ is suing a red state because they refuse to turn over voter roll information. No one will ever talk about that over on the right. And that's just one example. I'm sure there's other red states. Plenty of them have turned over their voter rolls like idiots. But there are red states strongly pushing back on this as well.
states dictate how elections are run, not the against those moves. They say states dictate how elections are run, not the federal government. Is it time for the DOJ to drop this fight, and will you do it?
Well, we're relying on a statute passed by Congress that allows us, in the right circumstances, to review and get those voter rolls. And so, yes, no, we're not going to stop doing what I think every American should expect us to do, which is make sure that we have elections that are fair. And as that relates to the Department of Justice, that means making sure that there are no constitutional legal violations, even at the state level. So, yes, President Trump, this administration knows and of course understands that states administer elections, and that will always be the case, but it doesn't mean the federal government should play no role. And so the tension there is, of course, whether we should be playing the role that we're playing, and that's really what we're litigating.
How far are you willing to take this fight? Because you've been ruled against now 22 times. Are you going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court, do you anticipate?
We'll see. We'll see what happens. We're trying to work it out with states. Of course. Yes, absolutely. It's a possibility. Election integrity is something that President Trump ran on, and the American people elected him. It's something that every American should care about. And so the idea that the Department of Justice is trying to investigate issues around elections to make sure they're fair and make sure they're conducted the right way is not something that we should be running away from. That's something we should be running right towards.
I wish you would ask him about Idaho. I just want to look up real quickly why Idaho isn't turning over voter rolls. Let's see. March 3rd, 2026. Idaho Secretary of State won't give U.S. Justice Department sensitive voter information. Idaho's top election official recently said he will not give the Trump administration access to sensitive personal information about 1 million Idaho registered voters. In a letter to the DOJ last week, Idaho Secretary of State Phil McGrain turned down the DOJ's offer for a deal to share the information, which would include social security numbers, driver's license numbers, and birth dates. McGrain wrote in his letter that the Justice Department had recently revealed in a separate federal lawsuit filing that sensitive personal information, including social security numbers, were shared from federal systems to unauthorized persons. That development reinforces the importance of careful stewardship of sensitive voter information. While I appreciate the department's representation that Idaho's data will be safeguarded, I cannot take that now apparent risk in the absence of clear legal duty to do so. Ultimately, my concern is for the privacy rights of Idahoans who have registered to vote. So he's saying he can't give the information over because Trump's administration has shared that information with unauthorized people, so they can't even trust them to handle it correctly. That is quite sad. I don't even know if they have a principled stance against sharing it. They're just concerned that it'll get into the hands of unauthorized people and lead to problems for the residents of Idaho. How sad.
I want to finally shift gears.
Which is a valid concern, by the way. This is sensitive information that the states are collecting in order to run an election, not to just share with anybody. I mean, come on. What is it? It obviously shows that the DOJ's need for voter roll information does not trump the privacy concerns these states have for sharing that information.
Here a little bit and ask you about an issue that is, full disclosure, close to us here at NBC, the kidnapping of Savannah Guthrie's beloved mom, Nancy.
Oh, what the hell? What are we doing, man? No offense to the Guthrie family. I don't doubt that it is their number one concern, but I'm sorry. Like, this is not the most important thing to ask the Attorney General about, but okay.
The FBI told the Wall Street Journal, quote, "The state is the lead in this investigation, has always been the lead." Mr. Attorney General, she has been missing for more than 6 months now. Is it time for the FBI to take the lead in this investigation?
It's a horrible situation, and I share the grief and the frustration that you and your colleagues have, and that the whole country has in this situation. I mean, I think whether the FBI takes the lead, we are there to support and give. And President Trump pledged it, Director Patel pledged it. The resources, anything that investigation needs, we are working as hard as we can with the state and local law enforcement in every area, and that means not only providing assistance with manpower, but any sort of forensic assistance. And so we're going to continue to do that. Whether we come in with sharp elbows and take it over, that's not necessarily the right thing to do for her or for anybody. But making sure it's done right and making sure that this investigation is being conducted the way that it should be is something we're doing.
Is there an update? Are you any closer to solving this?
I don't have any update. I don't, and I'm sorry to say that because I wish I had an update. And I know that this type of case is heartbreaking, especially when it plays out nationally like this one has. And all I can say is that Director Patel and his leadership and the leadership out in that area of the country it will remain a priority, as it should, with resources and with energy and with focus, and we hope that we get something soon.
All right.
Yeah. Hope we get something. Dude, she's gone, man. Like, somebody obviously killed her. Like, haven't heard from the kidnappers, haven't heard from her. They said in the letter if they don't get the money in like a week, she's dead. I mean, what do you think's going on? I mean, is there a chance she's alive? Maybe, but I mean, it sounds like a kidnapping gone wrong. I don't know, man. Like, nobody's even following this story. Sorry. Terrible situation. What a useless interview this was. Kash Patel sleeping at the wheel. Yeah, remember a couple months ago when Kash got in trouble for something? I don't remember what it was, but he was being criticized for something. He held a press conference, or he went to the press briefing at the White House where Caroline Leavitt usually leads, and he said some arrests are coming in the next couple of weeks related to the 2020 election or something. You guys remember that? Let me see. Kash Patel says arrests are coming 2020. Yeah. So back on April 19th, I can't read this. April 19th, he said on Fox News that arrests are coming soon, quote unquote, coming soon on 2020 rigged election. 2 months ago. No, this is 4 months ago. This idiot said that. 4 months ago, he said arrests are coming soon. Okay. Just like Tulsi Gabbard over a year ago stood in front of the world and said that Obama committed treasonous acts, a crime punishable by death, and she was making a criminal recommendation to the DOJ, and that he's still walking free. A man who committed a crime that can be punished by death is just walking around totally free.
Right. Mr. Attorney General, thank you so very much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank
we
you
really
very much.
appreciate it. When we come back, House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries.
Woo! Finally, someone with a brain. Somebody said in YouTube, can't believe they confirmed him. I'm thrilled they confirmed him. I as annoying as these people are, the worse the people are in these positions of power, the better, because they're incompetent and they just do what Trump wants and they screw up and they get themselves in trouble, and it'll help us politically. There's nothing else we can do. Like I feel these guys are limited in what they can do anyways. Like, can they do terrible things? Kind of. I don't think they have the competence to pull it off. And so they just flounder. They like it. To me, it's like watching kids pretend to be in positions of power. Like, it's like acting, watching people play a role on TV or something. But the worse, the better, in my opinion. Might as well get the worst people possible in these positions so that they screw it up and give us ammunition to win harder.
Joins me next.
Look at that. There's our next Speaker of the House. He's just counting the days, man. Putting X's on the calendar till he gets those gavels.
Welcome back. And joining me now is Democratic House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York. Leader Jeffries, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
Great to have you back. We appreciate it. I do want to start with the recent midterm election results. 7 Democratic incumbent House members have lost their seats this election cycle, Leader Jeffries.
Wow, I didn't know it was that high. 7? Damn. Dropping, man, like flies over here. Not all getting routed by DSA types. In fact, very few.
Jeffries, including some who you endorsed, who lost to more progressive candidates. What message do you think voters are trying to send?
Well, I expect that there will be at least 220 members of the House Democratic Caucus when we take back the majority, if not a number much greater than that. And what is clear is that the American people want us to focus on driving down the high cost of living and dealing with the affordability crisis that has created a situation in this country where far too many people are working hard, they're playing by the rules, but they can't thrive and can barely survive, which is why we, as House Democrats, are committed to fighting for an affordable America every day, every week, every month, until we solve this crisis.
I want to ask you about what is effectively a battle taking.
Dodge. I understand where he's coming from, but I wish he would just take these questions head on too, you know? He doesn't want to pick a fight, but yeah, I think his answer makes sense. Like, look, these guys are winning because people are pissed and they're looking for fighters about affordability and accountability, and certain voices just don't have that. They aren't meeting the moment. That's it, man. Like, I don't think this is a battle of socialism versus capitalism and that America's experiment is at threat. Is, you know, like, come on. 99% of the people that are voting for these DSA types don't even know what they stand for beyond making their life more affordable. They don't give a shit about abolishing prisons or borders. They don't even know if they have those positions, probably.
Taking place inside the Democratic Party. Longtime Democratic official Rahm Emanuel, who, as you know, is also eyeing a potential run in 2028, recently described Democratic socialists this way. Take a look.
You know, last weekend in Chicago, the DSA held their convention. You're not Democrats. You're a separate party. I'll see you in November.
Oh! Just feels unnecessary. Like, I'm not interested in drawing lines about who can and can't be a part of the Democratic Party. If you want to be a lunatic who supports crazy things and join the Democratic Party, that's up to you, man. If that's on you, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to spend time figuring out who can be a part of our cool group and who can. I don't care. I think it gives them more clout and respect than they deserve. I mean, to me, it's a very childish movement that is promising people pie in the sky stuff that They don't even have a plan for how to get there or what it even means in any way at all. And it's just taking advantage of a moment where the Democrats are at a low, being out of power, and people are frustrated by Trump and his bullshit. And the DSA people are basically lying that the Democrats could be doing more and that they can accomplish anything if they just got in there. So I'm not too concerned about these guys. I don't think it's even worth giving them the power of saying they're a threat to the Democratic Party in any way. Like, why can't we have them in the Democratic Party? Like, who cares? It's our youth group, basically, right? It's like, it's a fringe element of the left. I mean, okay. I mean, it is what it is, man.
Democrats, you're a separate party. I'll see you in November.
Do Democratic Socialists belong in the Democratic Party, Leader Jeffries?
Well, what I can say is that I do not support defunding the police. I do not support open borders. I do not support abolishing the Senate. We're focused on actually solving problems that hardworking American taxpayers want us to solve, which is to lower the high cost of living in a situation where life is far too expensive in this country. That's the Democratic agenda. That's what House Democrats are fighting to achieve.
I mean, again, it's an okay answer. It's like, look, I don't know what those guys are up to. I can just tell you what we're up to. I don't know. Like I said, I want everybody to just take on the questions and not deflect or avoid them. These are not hard questions in any way. If I was Hakeem, I would have said to the first one, look, not every race that I endorse is going to win, but I have a policy of supporting the people I work with. And that would be the incumbents. And I think they're all great people, but it's not up to me. It's up to the people in their district. And some are going to lose. But most of the people I endorse win. In fact, 98% of the ones I endorse win. So I'd say I got a pretty good track record there. Number two, of course, there's room for DSA people in our movement. We share 90% of our platform with these guys in the sense that they want to make
Feels
life more
very
affordable,
anti-Biden era from the mainstream allied media. They keep going, it's going to ruin their reputation further.
Anti-Biden era. Yeah, I guess in the sense that it's like trying to find division within the party. Like, okay. You answer the question, you make the war worse. Well, I just don't see any reason to avoid the question. You know, if they're going to ask you, might as well. I mean, did he expect the question not to be asked of him? I mean, everywhere he goes, he's going to be asked about these DSA people. They're the exciting new thing. So might as well have an answer ready for them instead of just talking about what the Democratic Party is. Like, okay. I hate that Tiny has become so alarmist with the DSA 1 month before early voting. Well, I've been making my opinion known that I don't think these guys are anywhere near the threat that some people may think they are, but he's got a right to think otherwise and to be concerned about their influence in the online space that he operates in and the future of the party. I mean, there is a picture you could paint where DSA grows. That let's say they get 5 more Mamdanis and they start moderating a bit and they catch on. And next thing you know, democratic socialism sweeps the nation. I mean, it's not an impossible thing. I think the chances are pretty slim with the people that are rising to the top. And I also think it's just a window, a short, small window before the midterms and Democrats start showing the world a new face of the Democratic Party and taking action. I mean, there's literally nothing the Democrats can do right now. So it's the American electorate, especially the Democrats and the left, are ripe for the picking for these DSA types because they can say, look at these do-nothing Democrats. They're not doing anything while Trump just tramples over your rights. He's making your life worse, and these clowns aren't doing anything. They want him to do this because they like having him as a foil, or they're just as captured by corporate interests, right? Like they can fill the air with nonsense.
And he voted for Obama.
Fun fact, with the 60 House retirements that have been announced, so far, the
Sheesh.
2026 midterms will have the second highest number of retirements in a single election cycle, only eclipsed by 1992.
Wow. I mean, that's another sign of how bad things are. I'd love to know how many of those are Republicans versus Democrats. But yeah, the high amount of retirements tells you that things are not going well for the party in control of the House right now, aka the Republicans. Thank you for the $10. Ake. I'm just going to call you Ake. All right.
Do you think, though, that there is room in the
Nobody knows how anything works, so they go conspiratorial and stupid. Isn't that the definition, though, of your average American in everything nowadays? Nobody knows anything about anything because we all live on social media where you get 5-second clips at best of anything, and you get you get your information filtered through the mouth, through the eyes and the mouth of some influencer, right? Like nobody knows anything about anything. And so of course conspiracies are going to be attractive and take off. And it's just like people are filling the void with whatever they want to believe. And right now people want to believe that if only the Democrats had fighters and younger and bigger dreamers in these positions right now, we would be completely destroying Trump and owning this country. And it's just not true. You could have 1,000 AOCs in office right now, and we'd be doing the exact same thing. Elections have consequences. Like there's a reason why when you win, you get a chance to do what you want. The other side can't stop you. That's how it works. That's by design. So, but sadly, DSA and other further left people are taking advantage of people's ignorance. And in fact, they probably are ignorant themselves and believe it too.
Fighting to achieve.
Do you think, though, that there is room in the Democratic Party under the tent of the Democratic Party for Democratic Socialists? Is it big enough?
Well, listen, I don't support the DSA agenda as has been articulated by the DSA itself. Now, you're going to have individual members who have been elected in Democratic primaries, and if they are elected in the general in November, will be part of the House Democratic Caucus. It's going to be a broad caucus. There will be progressives, there will be New Dems, there will be Blue Dogs. What I'm excited about are the candidates who are running to flip seats in November to deliver us a majority that pushes back against Donald Trump's extremism and moves the country in the right direction. That means us, House Democrats, lowering the high cost of living in areas like groceries and gas and, of course, housing, and fighting to make health care affordable for every single American, while at the same period of time pushing back against the corruption that has been unleashed on the American people and holding the crooks accountable beginning on day one in January of next year.
Oh, that's a much better answer there. Just saying, I'm focused on the districts that will actually give us control of the House. And those are swing districts. And I have yet to see one of these DSA people even come close to winning one of those. So those people, you know, if very blue districts want to send people with those ideas to Congress, then they're welcome to do so in a Democratic primary. But the truth is, the people that will give us the House, control of the House, are in swing districts that do not have those positions.
All right, well, let's talk about your agenda. If you do, in fact, find yourself in power January of next year, one of the big issues, as you know, many Democratic candidates have been talking about is abolishing ICE. If Democrats win back the House, if you become Speaker, would you bring a vote to abolish ICE to the House floor?
Well, here's what I believe unites Democrats in terms of dealing with the situation that we confront in this country. First, we need a safe, secure, and strong border. We also need to proceed under the principle that immigration enforcement in this country should be fair, just, and humane. And clearly, ICE is completely and totally out of control, which is why Democrats in this Congress haven't given Donald Trump's violent mass deportation machine a dime until we actually see dramatic, bold, and transformational reform. That means ICE conducting itself like every other cop, police officer, and law enforcement agency in this country, because we believe that taxpayer dollars should actually be used to make life more affordable for the American people, as opposed to brutalizing and killing American citizens like Alex Preddy and Renee Nicole Good, or violently target law-abiding immigrants, which is what ICE is doing right now.
It sounds.
Hey, I thought that was a great answer right there. People on Twitter were so mad at this. What? I've been saying forever, we need to tell the American people we support a secure border, because we do. There's no reason to avoid saying that out loud. We do not support an open border. We want our border to vet people coming in here. There are people that want to harm us. We have laws in this country. We have people waiting in line. We would love to see legal immigration expanded, but we don't support illegal immigration to get around our concern and complaints that there's not enough legal immigration. I mean, come on. So this is a good answer in the sense that laying out our position, we support a strong border. And also, we need immigration enforcement. I mean, nobody here would say that if somebody committed a violent crime and is here illegally, they should be allowed to stay here. I don't see it. I don't think anyone would support that. I'd be curious to hear the argument why anybody would. If somebody committed a violent crime, I'm not talking about, okay, you got arrested for stealing something, or you got, you got into a fight with somebody outside of a movie theater, bumped into each other or something, just some stupid thing that happens a million times in America. I'm talking about domestic violence, or you drunk driving, whatever, something violent. You hurt another person. Doesn't even have to be another American. It could be anybody. If you're not here legally, then you're going to get the hell out of here, man. This is a privilege to be in America. I mean, it is what it is. It would be a privilege for me as an American citizen to be in someone else's country. And if I don't act properly, then I deserve to get kicked out if I commit some violent crime. I would expect the same all around the world, every country to do the same exact thing. But we're so nervous on the left to say these things out loud as if we're going to hurt someone's feelings or harm a community in some way. But we're just standing up for the existing laws and what we all believe in. Dara Lisa did. Yeah, well, that's idiotic. Thinks violent, undocumented criminals shouldn't be deported. I mean, it's stupid. I don't think anyone actually really believes that.
Sounds like you're saying ICE should be reformed, not abolished. So just to be very clear, would you bring a vote to actually abolish ICE to the House floor? Do you think that goes too far?
What I've said is that we're committed to dramatically reforming ICE in a variety of different ways, consistent with what the American people want us to do. In other words, the mask should come off, body cameras should come on, judicial warrants should be required before ICE can storm into the homes of the American people, rip them out of their bed in the dead of night, and try to detain them without justification. We also need to make sure that ICE agents are actually subject to prosecution at the state and local level so that they can be held criminally accountable when they break the law. That's not what's happening right now. When you have a Justice Department under Todd Blanche, for instance, that's become a wholly owned subsidiary of the Trump cartel and Donald Trump's extreme agenda, as opposed to standing up for the rule of law.
All right.
I have no problem with that answer either. Reform ICE. I mean, there is a need for a federal agency to work with state and local officials on pinpoint raids to remove violent, undocumented people from this country. There is a need for this service. And if you just say get rid of ICE, nobody's going to come to the conclusion that, oh, you're just trying to return those responsibilities to other agencies and that we will not miss a beat. Nobody's going to think that. At least the vast majority of people, if you say abolish ICE, they're just like, oh, so you want violent, undocumented criminals to be free in America. Oh, okay. Got it. No problem. Jeffries can see into the future here, and he knows that 2 years from now, when the 2028 Democratic candidates are asked about abolishing ICE after some undocumented criminal commits a violent act, and they are seen as wanting that guy to stay in America because they said abolish ICE, he knows that's not going to look good, and there'll be no context, and no one will remember what was going on. People have already kind of forgotten about Alex Preddy and Renee Good because the surge of ICE has died down. So I feel like abolish ICE has already kind of lost its momentum and its steam, and it's already being frowned upon. Reform ICE. Yeah, reform ICE doesn't sound as cool. He just says replace ICE. He could say replace ICE, I guess, but he probably has PTSD from defund the police.
Let's move on to Medicare for All. You co-sponsored Medicare for All legislation from 2013 to 2021. You've not co-sponsored it since you became Democratic leader. Will you put Medicare for All up for a vote if you become Speaker?
Well, listen, these are all conversations that the House Democratic Caucus is going to have. Right now, we're focused on November 3rd, not January 3rd. What we are promising the American people is that we're going to fight to make health care affordable for every single American. And we know there's a lot of damage that Republicans have done that we've got to restore and repair. For instance, Republicans have enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. More than $1 trillion or so has been cut from Medicaid, and what you're going to have is about 14 million Americans lose access to health care.
Do you personally support Medicare for All? Do you personally support Medicare for All?
No, as you indicated, I haven't co-sponsored the Medicare for All legislation that has been introduced over the last several years. I do think we need to figure out how to fix our broken healthcare system and then build something better once we repair the damage that has been done. Now, that will include doing things like extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits so that more than 20 million people who have seen their health insurance premiums skyrocket, in some cases by up to $1,000 a month. That's not sustainable, and that's something that Donald Trump and Republicans have visited upon the American people.
Just to be very
well, let me hear this last part.
Very clear, though, as a Democratic leader in the House, would you vote for or against Medicare for All?
I think, as you've indicated in your question to me, it's not legislation that I currently am co-sponsoring or that I support.
Okay.
But we do support the notion that we've got to find a path forward to fix our broken healthcare system and make healthcare affordable for every single American.
All right.
So I would like to understand why he doesn't support Medicare for All. There's a lot of people who don't, for whatever reason. I don't think it's because they're corrupt and they are beholden to the health insurance industry. I'm sure they have their own reasons. But what I would like to hear in that answer is something like, I do not support Medicare for All, but I support universal and comprehensive coverage. I want to see as many Americans get an amazing service in this country. And what we've seen from the Republicans is punishing people on Medicaid who have no other means to obtain health insurance. And we would deal with that immediate threat first, and restoring the very popular enhanced ACA subsidies that allowed tens of millions of people to afford their health insurance once again, and then continue our journey in pursuing that universal comprehensive coverage. I don't think Medicare for All is the path to get there. I think there's some other things like a public option or Medicare for America or whatever. I don't know. It's up to him to detail what he does support. But I believe all Democrats do support universal and comprehensive coverage. They just have different ideas of how to get there. Feeling like he just has to give a moderate answer. Well, but I don't.
Stupid question. Hey, let us get the big insurance cartel to fund the other side. If we fail, at least Democratic voters will hate him. Thanks, MSNBC.
I believe the Democratic Party as a whole supports universal comprehensive coverage, whether it's through Medicare or through making it affordable for everybody and keeping the current system to some degree. I don't know. But I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a Democrat who thinks that it's every man for himself. And if you can afford it, great. If not, sucks to be you. I just don't think that's part of our party platform in any capacity. It's just a matter of how do we get there? Some people want Medicare for all. Other people want to shore up the ACA. I don't know. There's plenty of ideas out there that I cannot describe right now, but I would love to hear his idea for how we get to comprehensive universal health care, because I don't see how that is a bad thing in any way. And there sure as hell has to be a better way than what we're doing now that's more affordable and more comprehensive.
Let's turn to the Supreme Court. This week, you called for dramatic reform to the Supreme Court. Former Vice President Kamala Harris has called for expanding the court to 13 justices. Do you support adding more justices to the court, Leader Jeffries?
What I support is dramatic reform. And what that looks like to begin with is making sure that the Supreme Court actually has an ethical code of conduct so that they're not able to simply
And he voted for Obama.
From what it sounds like, Jeff is focused on fixing what's been broken before getting Medicare for all. Sorta makes sense. How can Medicare for all function properly if the foundation isn't there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that's a charitable takeaway from what he said, but I agree with everybody that he could work on that answer, right? Like, why not find a way to embrace Medicare for all, even if you don't currently support it, and lay out an excuse like that? Like, hey, before we get to big, expansive ideas, I believe we have to shore up our existing floor and system. Something like that. I don't know. Meta, thank you for the $10 super chat.
Ethical code of conduct so that they're not able to simply conduct themselves in ways that are inconsistent with the notion in this country that no one is above the law. And that should actually include Supreme Court justices. And we've seen right-wing justices like Thomas and Alito engage in behavior that is ethically questionable at best. That has to change, because the American people should have confidence in the highest court in the land. Now, in terms of the broad reforms that are going to be necessary to actually deliver a court that's functioning like a separate and co-equal branch of government, as opposed to what we saw, for instance, with respect to the Calais decision, where the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in ways that do the bidding of extreme MAGA Republicans who turned around in the Deep South and unleashed these Jim Crow-like tactics. Yes, I have a problem with that. It's inconsistent with the law and with the Constitution. Now, Jamie Raskin, the top Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, and other Judiciary Committee Dems are going to take the lead on what dramatic reform of the Supreme Court looks
Very
like.
quickly.
I like the line he said a moment ago, where I'm focused on November 3rd, not January 3rd. If we win, we will have these conversations as a caucus. We will talk about what to do.
Who enforces the code of conduct for SCOTUS?
They would have to enforce it against themselves. Now, I understand people think that it would be toothless, but look at the House of Representatives, for example. They have an ethics committee that is split 50-50, and it is taken seriously. It's well respected. And though it can't do anything, it can release reports that can lead to punishment, can lead to people getting kicked out of the House, censured. And most recently, we saw a Republican congressman end his reelection bid because the House Ethics Committee investigated one of the House rules that he broke, which was messing around with the staff. He didn't sleep with them, but he was being creepy and weird. And it was enough that the report itself came out and he dropped out of running for re-election. Chuck Edwards in North Carolina, and from Northwest North Carolina. Pretty big name in the Republican Party if you follow the House like we do. And so I would argue that a code of ethics could have an impact on SCOTUS just because an investigation would take place internally. And if there's a damning report, then you might be able to force one of these people out or have some serious change to their behavior. But right now, there is no code of ethics, so there's nothing for them to be held to. And they just kind of decide what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. There's nothing in writing for them. But I think his answer's fine here. Like, everybody's looking for some sort of solid answer. I think he's smart to say, look, we got to win first, and then we'll get together and talk and see what we want to do. And I'll leave it up to Jamie Raskin, who's the lead them on the Judiciary Committee, to decide what to push for. I mean, it's kind of smart. Like, look, I can't be an expert at everything. So when it comes to Medicare for all, I will allow the health committee to have a discussion about that, and then I'll listen to them, and we'll see where we go from there. I mean, he should be panning these questions off to all of these leaders in the House and just say, wait till January.
Very quickly, Leader Jeffries, I want to get your take on what you are anticipating in November. You have said failure is not an option when it comes to winning back the House. Former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi has said she wants Democrats to win at least 30 seats. Is that realistic? How many seats do you think Democrats are going to win?
30 seats? Oh, my God, that'd be crazy.
Well, we're going to work as hard as we can to get to 218 and then win as many seats above that as possible so we can actually deliver a Congress that is focused on making life better for the American people, on making life more affordable, on ensuring that people can't simply survive, which is the challenge right now, but are able to thrive in this great country of ours moving forward.
All right.
Dems won 40 in 2018. Yeah, but there's been a lot of gerrymandering since then. The fact is, there's not a lot of seats that are won by 5% or less. That is considered the low-hanging fruit for Democrats. And there's even fewer seats that are held by Republicans that Kamala Harris won. So, if we win those seats, plus the ones that have Republicans in Kamala districts like Mike, what's his name? Lawler in New York, then I could see us having like a 10-seat lead or something like that. That's what I would put my money on. I would say high single-digit lead or low double-digit, like 10 to 13 seats or something like that. It's just not a lot of seats, man. You just can't have these 40, 50 seat swings, though. If everything lines up, we could have a major wave. Right now, the Democrats have pushed the electorate in America about 13 points to the left. There's a lot more seats that were won by 10% or less, and even around 10%. And if you put all those together, then yeah, you could have a 30, 40 seat win for the Democrats. I mean, anything can happen, right? Trump is continuing to make things better and better every day for the Democrats and worse for the Republicans. The concern I see right now from articles I'm reading is the candidates that we've nominated in some races, like El Sayed or these DSA freaks, that they're dragging down the Democrats a little bit. Like, one of the biggest problems for Trump in 2022 and the Republicans was nominating bad candidates. History says the party in the White House should get their teeth kicked in the first midterms, but Biden and the Democrats did pretty well in the midterms in 2022. We barely lost the House. The Republicans had like a 5-seat majority, and we actually gained a seat in the Senate with John Fetterman flipping that seat blue. That should not have happened. And one of the biggest reasons why it did happen was bad candidates that Trump helped get nominated, like Herschel Walker, Kari Lake, Mehmet Oz. These were losers. And we were able to win. So now we're kind of on the other side where we're nominating some bad people. But I don't think our bad people are anywhere near as bad as the Republicans. I mean, you really had a lot of complaints from everybody about Trump's nominees being unqualified and useless. You're not really hearing that from these guys. You're hearing that they're a little too extreme and that they're rabble rousers, but you're just not, they're not on the level of Herschel Walker, just like in over their head, completely useless. I would say that Francesca Hong woman was about as close as we got to Trump's Herschel Walker Nimrods. But even then, there was still a big difference between Herschel Walker and Francesca Hong, right? Like, she's actually an elected official, and she had a positive movement, even though she kind of tripped over her own words and was useless. All we needed was normal people. DSA is the opposite of normal. Politics is never easy, man. It's always one step forward, two steps forward, one step back. It's always, there's always something, you know, you got to deal with it. It's never going to be perfect.
Leader Jeffries, thank you very much. We will track everything from now until November. Appreciate your being here.
Thank you.
When we come back, Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna of California joins me next. Welcome back. And joining me now is Congressman Ro Khanna of California. Congressman Khanna, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks for having me back.
Thank you so much for being here in person. Let's talk about the state of play as we head toward November. We are seeing this battle play out inside the Democratic Party. I was just talking about it with Leader Jeffries between moderates and progressives. And we've really seen some mixed results. For example, the win.
My fence has still yet to be mended, Saeed. Come on.
Yep. Still a lot of broken fences. That Fox News poll that came out last week showing Ossoff ahead 13 and 5 flips from Iowa to Maine also had El Sayed down 4 points on Mike Rogers. So not good. There was a internal poll that wasn't ranked as high as the Fox News one that showed El Sayed winning by like 8 points. So we know how those polls worked out in the primary, right? We had like El Sayed plus 17 thanks to his internal polls. And looks like they're right back at it again now, putting out polls showing that he's winning by a mile. No lesson learned there, I guess. So I think that whatever El Sayed's team is doing is overestimating his support. And I do not think he's winning by 8 or whatever right now. I think he's still down to Mike Rogers. He can easily turn this around. It's up to him to make the changes, though. I think he can win like this, too, but it's definitely, he's making it harder. I still think move number one would be to disavow Hassan Piker, not just say his comments are dumb, not just say that's a deflection or whatever, but really forcefully disavow and say you love this country, as stupid as it is and unnecessary. Sadly, that's what Americans are looking for who are concerned about him. Are you surprised he hasn't dumped Hassan? I'm not surprised. I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. I mean, he seems like an egomaniac, like a lot of these people are that run for high office. I think he sees it as he would be throwing like it would be a win for the, you know, how can I put this in a nice way? He probably sees it as a win for the pro-Israel people out there, and that it would be an attack on it would be like him admitting he was wrong. Just stupid things, right? But that's where we're at, and you know, it's up to him. I'm considering that we could lose that race now. I did not feel like that until recently, For example, there's video now of his sister. I haven't seen the video, I just read about it, but his sister celebrating on October 8th, 2023. And he is not his sister, but he's going to have to come out very forcefully condemning comments like that. And I think there's going to be more of that. There's going to be, oh, there's this person from the mosque that he goes to, and he was friends with this guy 10 years ago. And it's like, do you disavow this? Do you disavow that? The best thing you could do is just use Hassan Piker as a huge example of where he stands and just forcefully dump that clown and condemn him. But I don't think he's going to. I don't know. The pressure's kind of building, so he might.
By Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed in Michigan, the loss by Francesca Hong in Wisconsin. What do you make of it, and how can Democrats unify heading into November, given these deep divisions?
There's an energy that the economic system is just working for a few, for people in my district, 1/3 of the nation's wealth, and not working for many. And that is really the animating theme in the Democratic Party, that we want the economy working for everyone. Now, we have different ideas on how to do that. I am for Medicare for all. I'm for a tax on billionaires. I'm for no foreign wars. So there are legitimate differences, but the unifying theme is that this system isn't working for ordinary Americans.
See, this is the kind of messaging that Hakeem needed, right? Like, look, we all agree on the left that this isn't working for everybody, and that's why we're fighting so hard. And we have some different ideas of how to get there. But we all share the same goal.
What do you make of what you just heard from Leader Jeffries on Medicare for all?
Medicare for all is arguably the most important priority. It would save money and it would save lives. Look, there was just a Yale study that came out. It would save $1 trillion in terms of costs, in terms of healthcare. We know that the average income of workers is 43%. It's the lowest it's ever been since 1929. One of the reasons is because of exploding health insurance. Medicare for all would increase wages.
Were you disappointed to hear Leader Jeffries say at this point in time he says he wouldn't vote for Medicare for all?
Well, look, I respect the difference, but I will say this. It needs to have a vote on the House floor. The majority of the House Democrats are going to support it. It is one of the most important policies if you actually believe in saving lives and in helping increase wages for working class Americans. You talk to folks and they'll say the biggest thing that pushes me into bankruptcy is if someone gets cancer and I can't afford the bills. And even people who have insurance, look at how many premiums have been increasing. This would save money for ordinary Americans and it would increase their wages. It's the single biggest roadblock in our economic system, hurting working families.
Let me ask you about something.
The weak spot for these guys who are advocating for Medicare for all, in my opinion, is they don't talk about how we would handle the influx of people in the healthcare system. We don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough hospitals. We don't have enough facilities to service everybody. So just think of some communities that are lacking not only specialists, but general practitioners. I think you have to address that at the same time. Otherwise, people are going to feel that it's going to water down our current system and they'll never support it. And also, these Medicare for all bills inject a lot of people very quickly into the current system. That seems like a disaster. And I could see people not supporting it just because of that. But they should say that. They should say that, hey, this is not the timeline in the current Medicare for all bill is unrealistic. And my concern is that it will harm the existing system. And so what I'm proposing is we first ramp up resources and increase the supply of doctors and facilities, nurses, and then we slowly introduce more people to that system. I'm very concerned that you cannot pass Medicare for all right now because of that bottleneck of resources. And I've never heard anyone address that. I would love to hear anybody's opinion on that, because you're just going to get so much pushback from people who are already in the system that are how can I say it? They are understandably concerned that it would overwhelm the system. The Medicare for All advocates also haven't done their homework. Ben Nelson started having hearings in 2006 about the ACA. Yeah, they haven't sold it yet to the American people. I know people can point to polls saying Americans support it, but I don't think they know the details. They don't understand the timeline. And then when you start asking them about, are you ready to give up your private insurance? They start getting a little skittish. Private hospitals are robbing people. I agree. But you got to work with all these shareholders. That's what the ACA did successfully. It got everybody on board except one group. I don't remember what it was, but the Obama and the Democrats did a very smart thing in that they brought all the stakeholders together, the insurance companies, because look at how the insurance companies made out. It's basically an exchange for you to buy private insurance at a discounted rate. And so the insurance companies got access to a bunch of new customers. And doctors, you got to win them over. I like how he said that workers would save money. That's a smart way to start selling it to people. It's like, hey, you will take home more money because right now your wages are being eaten into by the rising health insurance and healthcare costs. So if we can get some system like Medicare for All, you'll bring home more money. So that's what I'm saying. You got to spell this out for people. You can't just say Medicare for all, we're spending too much and we could save trillions. Nobody can even imagine $1 trillion or give a shit about the next community over and the people that don't have health insurance there. You got to show each individual person why they should support this huge idea that would be a big game changer. And you can't just appeal to people's feelings about their fellow man. That's not a winning strategy. Don't you feel sorry for the poor people who don't have health insurance right now? The answer is, for most people, no. I don't give a shit. That's their problem, and and that's just being honest. The root of the problem is capacity. Sure. And the capacity doesn't have to be limited. It is limited by design. Doctors make a lot more money because there's less doctors. So they're incentivized to uphold the current system and not fight for more people to become doctors. They are incentivized to uphold the fact that you have to borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars because not everybody can do that. And it leads to them being paid more. So you got to work with all these people to get them on board with Medicare for All. And I don't see the Medicare for All people having won over any of these groups at all. None. Zero.
Something that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said in an interview last week. She, of course, another progressive leader, she said woke one was crazy, effectively suggesting some progressive views just went too far in the 2020s. Do you agree with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez that woke one was crazy?
Well, I don't know what these labels mean, and I'll tell you what I've always stood for. I have never been for defunding police. Our district in Silicon Valley is one of the safest districts in the country. We've actually had more police in San Jose and Fremont, but I believe in police reform so people aren't racially profiled. I have never believed in open borders. I've always been for a secure border, but I've called for abolishing ICE. I was just in Austin, and I talked to Benny, who was a Trump supporter, and he said that the Lorenzo Salgado's killing, a father's killing, who was a construction worker, has changed him. He thinks ICE should be abolished. He thinks it's crazy that ICE officers are arresting people who are pouring concrete. So my view on all of this is have common sense. You can be for borders but abolishing ICE. You can be for police but making sure we don't racially profile.
Francesca Hong obviously got a lot of attention for a post calling to get rid of Thanksgiving. She tried to explain that. Does that type of rhetoric hurt the overall progressive cause, do you think?
I really feel bad for what happened to Francesca, and I know it's fashionable to distance yourself. I'm not. I was proud to endorse her, and she's far more than the caricature that was presented. The main reason she was running was to stop data centers and to have childcare, and she's a daughter of Asian immigrants. Look, I love Thanksgiving. I grew up in an Indian-American household. We would go to Indian uncles and aunties to have Thanksgiving. We'd watch the Michigan-Ohio State game. But to judge her and caricature her based on a tweet it was just, I think, unfortunate. And of course, we should love and revere the history of this country, but we also have to understand for someone like her, a single mother, Asian American, how hard it is to break into politics. She doesn't have multimillionaire donors. She doesn't have Speaker Pelosi or someone clearing her path.
You bring up data.
Well, I appreciate that he gives her respect, because I do think what she did was phenomenal and incredible. She fumbled her responses to these past social media posts, and that's all on her, of course. Like, everybody's got cringe stuff they posted in the past, especially if you're a DSA person. You've posted max cringe for the last 5 years, so you got to have an answer to that stuff that will be accepted by a mainstream audience, not your comrades in your little niche discussion groups. You know what I mean? You got to be able to get outside of your echo chamber and appeal to people, and she was unable to do that.
Center. So I want to ask.
She couldn't turn off her, her DSA brain, wokeness, whatever, and that was to her detriment. But you got to give her credit for getting to where she got. I mean, that was incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's kind of sad to see the left abandon her like that. Bernie not endorse her, AOC not endorse her, and then kind of make fun of her, saying woke one was crazy. Okay, I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't even have a problem with the things that she said. I understand where she's coming from and some of the positions that she supports. She just didn't explain it well. That was to her detriment. Got to move past 2020. I agree. Yeah. A lot of this, you look back at the BLM 2020 stuff and it is cringe. Taking a knee, putting a fist in the air, talking about whiteness and all that. It is definitely cringe, but it was 2020. It was a different time. But you have to be able to have a good response to that now in 2026.
You about that. You are
someone clearing her path.
You bring up data centers, so I want to ask you about that. You are a congressman from Silicon Valley. Data centers have obviously become a big flashpoint in this midterm election cycle, frankly, with candidates on both sides of the aisle increasingly saying that they are opposed to them out of concerns for the impact that they could have on the environment, the enormous energy costs. I want to just play you a snippet of some of the ads that we've seen. Get your reaction on the other side.
Jubilee moved the Tim Pool debate. What do you mean by that? What do you mean moved? It's a video on YouTube. How could they have moved it? What does that mean? Removed? No shit. Wow. What's up with that? I didn't watch it. I just saw Mason had a funny clip where he forced Tim to leave, or Tim rage quit, and Mason put on a beanie making fun of him. I thought that was very clever and hilarious. I can't stand to watch idiots like Tim Pool debate for an hour and a half, though. But was it even good? They didn't. Let's see. I see it. Damn, you got some fake news, Zlubars. What are you doing, bro? What are you talking about, bro? Just the clip? Oh, you haven't watched this right here, man.
You have a lot of politicians on the Democrat side who got
Zlubar's tripping, bro. You got to stop drinking during the day, homie. Zlubar's tripping balls right now, man. I think you might have eaten some spoiled mushrooms or something, man. You good, bro? Blame soy pill. Wow. Damn, soy pill caught lying. Damn, I trusted him. Never again. Probably a good idea. New lighting looks good. Thank you, C75903. I appreciate that. I'm basically done with my setup here. I got my fancy new light. This is my campaign office aesthetic that I'm trying to pull out here. I got a couple little finishing touches. I've got a lamp. I've got a bulb for the lamp that I can turn the intensity down a little bit. I haven't installed it yet so that it doesn't draw as much attention, but this is pretty much what I was looking for. Just kind of like a campaign office look, a little more intentionality to the posters, not just a wall of signs to show that I have a million signs, but like, what's the message I'm trying to say with the signs? So I've got the most important campaigns right around me, and then older campaigns going out all the way with Obama, our anchor on the left. And then on the other side of me, I have more personal stuff like protest signs and press passes and my rubber bullet that I got hit with at a protest. So it's just kind of what I've been working on. Hopefully this will inspire me to make YouTube videos. I don't know. Are you going to do millennial purple lights? No. I just want the one practical light. That's it. Pull out some files. Yeah, I kept thinking, what was a good piece of furniture for like a campaign office, you know, like a small little table, a pedestal, a little desk, like a printer desk. And then came up with the idea of a filing cabinet, and I found this fun color teal at Office Depot, and it worked out. But all this stuff took a lot of time to think about, you know, a lot of work. But here we are. No bisexual lighting. No. Need an old school typewriter in the background. Well, I don't know if you would find that in a campaign office nowadays. U.S. flag behind you. Yeah, that's purposeful as well. Like, we need to show way more patriotism on our side. So, like, when I go to protests now, I stop by Home Depot and buy 10 small American flags for like $1 each. I probably should go on Amazon and buy 100 and just to hand them out at the protests, and people take them right away. It's not like I'm carrying around 10 flags for an hour. Like, within 10 minutes, I'm out. People love them, and it's just to have more American flags at our protests.
Congressman Tom Barrett wants to turn this field into a data center.
It's an existential threat.
Malone voted against stopping data centers, allowing them to expand unchecked.
Why are there 226 data centers in Ohio, fifth most of any state?
John Husted, that's why.
In my Florida, you don't protect our pocketbooks and our people, you won't build data centers, period.
Hell yeah. The new boogeyman, data centers.
Can America lead the world in artificial intelligence if it opposes the very infrastructure that is needed to build these AI centers?
We need a data center bill of rights. Look, these companies are in my district, NVIDIA, AMD, that are building the chips and the servers. But we can't be putting data centers in residential communities. We can't be putting data centers in farmland. You can't shove a data center down the throats of a local community without any say that community has. You can't be jacking up electricity prices. Even the technology leaders understand that there needs to be a pause so that we can get this right. Why aren't you putting them in a brownfield where there's been deindustrialized land? Why are you putting them in residential communities?
So you're not opposed to them, but you think it needs regulation?
I believe it needs regulation. I introduced a data center bill of rights saying it should never be in a residential community or farmland, and a local community should have the say of whether to do it. And I do think a pause in states like Pennsylvania, where you've got 6 data centers in Plymouth. It's about 45 minutes from where I grew up in Conshohocken. It makes no sense. I mean, why are you putting it there and these local communities have no say?
I want to ask you a little bit about the future as we look beyond 2026. You obviously have not ruled out a potential run for president. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was asked about her plans in 2028. She explicitly left the door open to a possible run in 2028. Why do you think you would be the better progressive leader in 2028 instead of in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez?
Oh, she's a phenomenal talent, and she's been so authentic in what she's done this week, and I have such respect for her. I do believe that the progressive movement is going to have many different voices, from city council to Congress to mayor, governor to president. But for me, I'm most focused on a national economic vision for this country. I represent Silicon Valley, 1/3 of the nation's wealth, $20 trillion. It's working for a few billionaires in a few places, but it's not working for people I grew up with. And my vision is, how do we get the future economy working for every community and every American, a new deal for America for our time.
How do you believe you're different than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? What's your biggest difference?
Well, we have different things that we're offering the country. For me, it is an economic vision. How are we going to reindustrialize this country? How are we going to bring new jobs everywhere? How are we going to make sure AI is not just working for a few billionaires, but is working for communities that were deindustrialized? I have a clear economic vision. I call it economic patriotism. And I believe that this is what the Democratic Party needs, a new national economic project to make sure every person has a stake in the country. And, you know, we'll see whether that it's me or not. But I will tell you this, the Democrats' path back out of the wilderness is to have a clear national economic message. We shafted too many communities that were deindustrialized. We left out the working class. People want to know that someone understands the economy and they have a vision for the future where their families will succeed.
All right, Congressman Ro Khanna, thanks so much. Really appreciate your being here.
Appreciate it.
It's not a bad pitch. I love that he's not shying away from the 2028 talk. It shows you how close we are to people announcing. They're putting feelers out. It's already happening. It's already happening, guys. Get ready. It's going to be a year plus of this stuff. I can't wait. I think it's exciting. I'm so thrilled for the American people to see a new face of the Democratic Party, to hear new messages that resonate with people, and put all these rock stars out there who are just resonating with people. Very cool. I don't remember presidential talk before the midterms. Oh, it's always happening. But when it comes to the people engaging in it, they tend to be like the less likely to win, right? Like, he probably isn't going to win the nomination, though. Who knows? I mean, if you think about it, we could see AI and unemployment from AI being the biggest issue of 2028. Like, it's tough to anticipate what the big issue will be in 2028. It's a moving target. I mean, who could have predicted that the pandemic would have an impact on the 2020 election 2 years before? Nobody even anticipated a worldwide pandemic. So let's say that the big issue is 10% unemployment in America. We reach this like crazy amount of unemployment because there's just a bloodbath of entry-level jobs due to AI, especially in the white collar sector. And somebody like Ro Khanna, who represents Silicon Valley, he's got his finger on the pulse to that, and it's like he's saying, I can bring change to this. You know, it's like he's the representative of Silicon Valley, and he's been talking about how to bring the wealth and resources of his district to the rest of the nation. So, you know, but at the same time, he doesn't have a business background, and I could see somebody who has led a big business or bank would be better positioned to handle high unemployment in America. So he may not be the guy to deal with that. I don't know. It's tough to say. Depends how long the war goes. Yeah, I mean, let's say the Iran war is playing a big role in the 2028 election, then somebody like Mark Kelly or Pete Buttigieg, who have military experience, could rise to the top, because people are looking for somebody who can do something with the military and end this stupid war and get us the hell out of there. And so who knows? It's tough to say who would be the best fit right now, because it depends on what the issues are as we get closer to the 2028 election. But the one interesting thing is the change in the calendar for the nominating states, with South Carolina going first. That means these guys are going to be spending a lot of time over the first year of the campaign in South Carolina, which has a large black population, is in the South. So a lot of their campaign will be focused on that state. And then you've got Nevada, which is a large Hispanic population, and New Mexico. And the big one, Michigan, goes 5th, I believe, which, you know, we saw the dynamics of what's going on in Michigan with the primary recently. So it's going to be interesting to see how the nominating calendar impacts which candidate or candidates do better, resonate more with the people. Roe's net worth is estimated at $340 million. I've heard hundreds of millions, yeah. Guess he doesn't need that PAC money. All right, I got to use the restroom, and then we'll check in with some of the Fox News interviews. I know they had that Oliver Larkin guy on, and Chris Rabb, who is a Hassan fan and a DSA candidate who won in like a D+40 district outside of Philadelphia. He was on one of the Sunday shows too. Check that out.
And Ro Khanna has made no secret about his national aspirations, traveling the country and making speeches, appearing on Fox on a regular basis as well. David, Youngstown, Ohio, Republican line. David, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. I just wanted to mention the MOU is ending tomorrow, I think. So I'm not concerned, but trying to understand what's the next move. And by the way,
could you specify what you are talking about? You used the term MOU, and what are you referring to exactly?
Excuse me. Memorandum of Understanding that they signed. Remember, 60 days?
We're talking about Iran and the U.S., correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that said, what would you like to see done?
Well, from the beginning, I never trusted them, personally. My descendants are Lebanese, you know, Maronite Catholics, and you can't make an agreement with those people. So, and I know that's sad, but it's true. So anyhow, what I'd like to see him is get this thing resolved and come home and bring the military home.
Thank you, David. In Youngstown, Ohio, let's hear from Ted. Buena Vista, Colorado, independent line. Ted, you're on the Washington Journal.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for taking my call. You know, my biggest concern right now is the aircraft carrier, the Lincoln. My dad is one of 5 brothers that all served in World War II. They were at Pearl Harbor, and they were in Sunnyvale, California, the heart of Silicon Valley, and they really fought hard in Pearl Harbor. And my dad was the youngest at 15 and a half, and he ended up going to Guam in the Philippines and setting up the power lines for the code talkers. But my biggest concern, when you sign up for the Navy, I don't have a big problem with 202 days out at sea, because when you sign up for a job, you have to do your job. But my concern is the fellow that jumped off the ship. He just needed some contacts, and he admitted to making some errors just because he didn't have proper eyesight, and they don't have water. And they were scheduled to go into Bahrain to be serviced and get resupplied and get some port duties. But prior to their arrival, they got bombed out by Iran when we were previously told that we decimated the Navy and the Air Force of the Iranian people. And one of my dad's youngest brothers that came out of Sunnyvale, California, they ran Moffett Field. He had to get grounded because he was blacking out. So they put him on the USS Kitty Hawk in San Diego as a chief petty officer when they were having problems with the blacks and the whites in 1972. So,
cool story, bro. I haven't heard about somebody falling off the aircraft carrier because of his contacts. That's a new one to me. Okay. The blacks and whites. Yeah. Thought he jumped off? Yeah, I feel like that's a sanitized version of what happened there that this guy just gave. No, he didn't jump off because he was depressed and been at sea for too long. No. He just didn't have the proper contact, so he fell off. That's all. That's all. Sure, buddy. Sure. What was I gonna look up? Oliver Larkin. "12 hours ago."
Is that Florida Democrat congressional candidate?
Is this from today? 12 hours ago? It's like 5 a.m. No, this isn't from today. This guy was on some Fox News Sunday show. Be on his page. Yeah, 4 hours ago. Okay, here we go. So Florida has their primaries on Tuesday, and this is the next DSA hope, Oliver Larkin. I don't think he's got a chance. We have not seen these DSA candidates be successful outside of D+25, D+30 districts. That's been the case so far, from the guys in New York City, the 2 districts that won there, to Colorado's 1st congressional district. They don't do well outside of deep blue districts. And we saw an example of that in Arizona a couple weeks ago, where a guy named Kai Newkirk ran, and there was nothing wrong with him. He was just kind of boilerplate DSA candidate, said all the right things, good-looking guy, young, energetic, and he ran in a D+4 district and got his ass kicked by like 20 points. So this guy, Oliver Larkin, is trying to run in a R+4 district in Florida against Jared Moskowitz, a young, exciting Democrat who nobody seems to have an issue with, really. So I just think this guy is running a pipe dream here, but he's getting a lot of attention. So let's see what he has to say for himself.
One of South Florida's newly drawn congressional districts is ground zero for this question. Does democratic socialism resonate in South Florida? Primary results in other states reflect increasing support that comes with increasing frustrations over the costs of health care and housing and income disparities. The new District 25 stretches north-south all along South Florida's East Coast communities, from Miami Beach up to Delray Beach, with a couple of jogs inland. The incumbent Congressman Jared Moskowitz, he was with us last week. His primary challenger is Democrat Oliver Larkin, a member of and endorsed by the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. Oliver Larkin is right here at the table live with us today. So nice to have you on the program. Thanks so much for coming in.
Wonderful to be joining you, Glenna.
2 days for some really interesting results that I think a lot of people are watching and going to learn from. I want to start with you, though. You have been in politics a lot, worked for Bernie Sanders, organizer, union organizer. What right now, right here, what do you do for a living?
I'm a digital marketing consultant.
Oh, okay.
I've worked in political marketing and digital advertising with Democratic candidates, campaigns, unions, and I've done that at various agencies over the course of 10 years. In January of 2025, I opened my own LLC and began working for myself, helping candidates locally, and it wasn't before long that a few people approached me about running for this race. So I know advertising, I know return on investment, and I think that's what taxpayers are looking for.
And boy, isn't marketing so much a part of candidacies now,
Sure
always. So how did you get involved with, you've been a Democrat, how did you get involved with the DSA? Because I don't think the Democrat Socialists of America were as part of the conversation of any campaign that I can remember in my tenure as a reporter. How did you get involved with that?
Yeah, I became a Democrat at 16 when Barack Obama was running for president the first time. I was a high school motor voter, getting my voter registration with my driver's license. But I started identifying with democratic socialism when I began volunteering and then working on Senator Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign. And I formally joined the organization in 2020 at the height of a once-in-a-century healthcare pandemic, when I did not see the Democratic Party fighting for Medicare for all, when we were all relying on one another for our collective well-being. I felt that it was important to build a parallel power structure to the Democratic Party that was really more more responsive to the needs of ordinary Americans.
And we'll get into all of those kind of issues. I really want to look at D25 right now, brand new district, a pretty split district.
I love the shitting on the Democratic Party. Why not just say, I saw the Democratic Socialists of America complimenting what the current Democrats were doing. I mean, we won in 2020, so it seems kind of like a stupid thing to say. Like, Democrats weren't doing it for me in 2020. Well, they were doing it for a lot of other people, so I don't know what you missed, because the American people overwhelmingly voted for Democrats. But why shit on the Democratic Party at any point? I mean, I guess that's popular, but this doesn't seem very helpful to me.
Designed by Florida Republican lawmakers who wanted to make it a bit tougher for incumbent Moskowitz to have a race.
Both sides bullshit.
And so the word socialism, let's talk about marketing, let's talk about communications. The word socialism in South Florida, to many people, is just a non-starter. These are people who came from socialist dictatorships, who have a first-hand perspective of socialism as a failure. How do you speak to these people, many of whom are going to live in this district? This district is heavily Hispanic. How do you explain yourself to them?
Yeah, the operative word is democratic, that I want popular collective input over the systems that govern our lives. And I believe in multi-party democracy. I believe in upholding our civil and constitutional rights, which many people fled places like Cuba or Nicaragua, as my wife's parents did back in the 1980s, looking for a better life in the United States of America. And I believe that our policies are actually more supportive of people trying to achieve the American dream, making sure that employer-based health insurance is not an encumbrance to people starting their own small business, their entrepreneurships. And I think that when we look at what the fears of socialism are, we actually see the repression of social and political rights emanating from the Trump administration. And I think what the most popular policies that Democratic Socialists are running on, like Medicare for All, raising the minimum wage to a living wage, it really addresses the cost of living concerns that many in South Florida, including our Latino residents, have.
And the devil is in the details and those things. Again, I want to talk about that, but I want.
He's saying, just ignore the socialism part. I focus on the Democratic part. Okay. I mean, I think it's an uphill battle for this guy, but he's getting attention because I guess I didn't know that that's his job, to do marketing. And obviously he's done a good job with himself because he's getting a lot of attention. But why this race? I mean, there's a lot of these people that run in races against popular, famous politicians with no chance of winning. Like Nancy Pelosi had perennial challengers who would go out there and get media attention and social media followers, just always running against them, claiming they can beat them and do great stuff. But they have no chance of winning, and they get to live the high life by bringing in money from all these dopes who think they have a chance. And because you don't win, you don't get your finances scrutinized. So you're basically able to raise unlimited funds and live a pretty good life, going around, staying in hotels and traveling and being a celebrity. I think that's what George Santos was doing and had no intention of winning. He just wanted to come in second place and be able to be a candidate.
I really worked hard for our interview today to define for myself, what does this mean? Because, I think we try to get out of the political rhetoric and the propaganda. I really want to know factually, what does all of this mean? And you tell me if this is valid. U.S. markets create wealth, and then the government supplies some of the, well, hopefully all of the safety net. In democratic socialism, the market creates wealth, and then taxes and regulation spread it out for everyone's benefit. Does that sound valid to you?
I think that's a fair characterization. I think that we have a system currently with quite low corporate and higher earner income and tax rates. And I want to see us restore much of the mid-20th century top marginal tax rates, making sure that we're closing tax loopholes so that we're actually having equitable payment into the systems that are very popular, like Medicare, like Social Security, but that do not provide the full spectrum of care. So I think that that's an accurate way to.
The stereotypical rich, white socialist telling the Hispanic population that socialism is based actually.
Represent it.
All right, so let's get into Medicare for all.
This guy a grifter, you think? I don't know, but I think he's running knowing he can't win. And so he's just using the opportunity to gain clout and a following. What he plans on doing with that, I don't know. I think he's just taking advantage of a moment. Because if you're running in an R+4 district as a Democratic Socialist, you're going to have to change your tune to win over those people. And he's just using the DSA playbook here that they've used in D+30 districts to win. This playbook didn't even work in a D+4 district that I talked about a few minutes ago in Arizona. So I think his chances of winning are pretty slim. At least Hassan will be upset when he loses. Yeah, I think Hassan actually attended a rally today for him, if I'm not mistaken. But, gee, I wonder why. I wonder if the last name of his opponent has anything to do with that.
Everybody needs health care. Not everyone gets the health care they need. That's just a fact in the United States. A function of money is involved in health care. But there's also the pharmaceutical industrial complex. It is a big business. Translate for me a very utopic idea of everybody getting the very best health care they need for free. Not only paying for it, because that's always everyone's question, and that's a big one, but incentivizing the people working in it to be the best doctors, not overwhelmed with the medical needs of people who are so sick. Talk to people who have to pay for the person who smokes and drinks and doesn't eat well and is terribly unhealthy when the person who's paying for it is very conscious of their health. Take me through those real details of getting to where you want to be.
Yeah, I think when we look at insurance pools as a whole, it's having the broadest possible risk pool, the same way that when we look at the fragmentation of the property insurance market in Florida and these sky-high rates that people are dealing with, we're suffering from the same issue with the healthcare marketplace currently, where there's what we hear is that we want competition, but what that really means is that there are a few private health insurance industries that really have a monopoly over the marketplace and are able to charge whatever they want, not just to consumers, but or people in need of health care, but to hospitals, to the places that need to reimburse for these costs. So what I would like to see in the United States, which is the wealthiest nation on earth, not to guarantee healthcare is a right, and we pay twice as much per capita as other peer nations with similar incomes with worse outcomes. So I want to see us make sure that Medicare is expanded to cover everyone, expanded and improved, including coverage for vision, hearing, mental health care, reproductive health care. And
you want to see that, but that's a wholesale change. Does that, practically speaking, do you see that as a possibility in the way you're speaking about it?
I do. The phase-in of a Medicare for all system would lower the Medicare eligibility age from 65 to 55 to 45 until it eventually within a few years covers everyone. This is actually a more cost-effective way of delivering health care for people because we wouldn't have premiums, deductibles, co-payments, or out-of-pocket costs, and the enormous administrative costs that healthcare providers, that doctors and nurses spend so much time getting claims covered or going back and forth with the insurance paperwork. That takes away
Bureaucracy
from their actual capacity to deliver this care.
Talk to me about.
Wait, let me hear that last part of you.
And nurses spend so much time getting claims covered or going back and forth with the insurance paperwork. That takes away
Bureaucracy
from their actual capacity to deliver this care.
Okay, that's not going to be enough to handle the influx of people. His argument is that if we just take away the administrative responsibilities of doctors dealing with all these different health insurance companies and complying properly to get paid, then they'll have more time to see patients. It's true, but it's not like they're going to have double the amount of time so they could see twice as many people now. It'll free up a little bit of their time for sure. And that is one of the arguments for Medicare for all, that doctors will have to do less paperwork and it'll be easier to just focus on them being doctors. But the missing element here for me is how do you increase the providers? How do you handle this influx of people? I have yet to hear any even hint of that from these guys. And phasing it in, lowering the age by 10 years in 2 years or 1 year, that's a lot of more people going into the system. And you can see people screaming right away like, hey man, it's already hard enough for me to get a doctor's appointment. Now I'm going to never be able to see my doctor. And while that may be bullshit, that kind of argument's going to work on a lot of people, man. So I think when you argue for Medicare for all, at the same time, you have to talk about how the quality of care currently will not go down in any way. Otherwise, you're never going to get it off the ground.
Talk to me about ICE. You've said you want to defund ICE. ICE right now in the news for things that go wrong. However, immigration and customs enforcement is a critical part of the nation's security. Defunding ICE and replacing that with what?
We had a system of immigration enforcement prior to 2003 with the establishment of DHS and ICE being created. The United States was able to function for well over 2 centuries with a more civil administration over the immigration system.
Okay, let me just stop you there. So you're not, is it defunding that you want to do or just revolving back to a pre-President Trump policy?
I want to abolish ICE. I do not think that a militarized immigration enforcement agency is necessary when there are violations of the immigration policy of this country. These are civil violations. They're not criminal, and they don't need criminal enforcement or militarized enforcement. What I would like to see is a system with much more capacity for immigration courts to adjudicate and process asylum claims and process people to make sure that there is documentation. I want to have a safe and secure border. That means a humane border where people are not risking their lives to come to the United States of America. I want to make sure that people, when they come into the United States, they're duly processed and they receive their paperwork so that they're able to pay and contribute to society and really achieve the American dream. We know that immigrants are more predisposed to entrepreneurship, to small business ownership. They pay taxes into systems they don't always have the eligibility to receive the benefits from. So we need immigrants in our society. And I think that if we have a more holistic and humane approach to immigration enforcement, I think that's going to be to the betterment of not just those of us in South Florida, but across the country.
Another big issue that's going to be in 25, where I think the statistic is 1 in 4 voters in D25 is Jewish. You have said you want to essentially defund Israel. Israel, one of many countries that the U.S. contributes to. How are you going to explain to your Jewish voters that you would like to essentially put Israel in an existential threat?
Here comes I've got a Jewish friend who agrees with me. That'd be my guess.
I look at this as making sure that we actually practice democracy abroad as well as at home. And when the nation-state law in Israel was passed in, I believe, 2018, that created a much more tiered system of citizenship that privileges Jewish citizens above Palestinians. I don't believe it is in the United States' interest to support that. And we've also got our own laws on the books, the Leahy laws, that prohibit the military funding from the Department of Defense and Department of State from providing
Let me just stop you for 1 second. That actually is factually incorrect.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
There was not a Palestinian state in 18. What I want to talk about is the here and now of the state of Israel exists in 1948, which actually was supposed to be a 2-state solution and then rejected by the Arab states. But here and now, a large chunk of the funding that goes to Israel is defensive funding for Iron Dome, or rather defensive, and then military funding greatly increased after the October 7th massacre. So I guess my question to you is, taking away Israel's money, which actually is a much more complicated equation because Israeli tech and the economic benefits that come back to the U.S. for job creation is all part and parcel of that, which not a lot of people talk about. But taking away a defensive mechanism for a state which has an existential threat all around it, stated by the terrorists who want to annihilate it, you're essentially taking away defense. And I think that's a very important thing for viewers in your district, because that's what they want to hear you talk about. Why?
Israel is committing a genocide in
That's
Gaza.
incorrect. That is factually incorrect.
It has been
That's
regarded
propaganda.
by the United Nations and Amnesty International and even Israeli human rights organizations, including B'Tselem. There's
The
a number
definition of genocide in the UN has said this, does not apply to what many people might think as a disproportionate wartime action. That's what that is in many people's minds. Genocide is a very specific thing, actually genocide being committed against Jewish people, not by Israel. And that's just a fact.
I mean, the United Nations recently in Geneva found that the IDF had deliberately targeted women and children. There's been famine conditions imposed over the Gaza Strip by the blockading of aid entering the Strip. There's been indiscriminate bombing of hospitals, of mosques, of churches, of...
Again, I'm going to have to stop you, as that is factually not correct. But I hear you talking about something very important to a lot of people, and certainly who think that way. But as a congressman, and I'm being told we have to wrap, but as a congressman for District 25, I'm hoping your viewers will be able to hear you flesh that out a little more, as well as the Medicare for All and universal education. And we'll see you on the other side of Tuesday. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me, Glenn.
Wow. That's factually incorrect. I got to stop you there. Oh, boy. So here he is running in a district that's R+4. 1 in 5 constituents are Jewish in Florida. He's running on it's a genocide. It's a bold strategy, man. Bold strategy. Not sure it's a winning strategy in this district. Hasn't been a winning strategy in D+4, let alone R+4. But I guess Oliver's ready to prove everybody wrong. Chomp the Oligarchy rally with Oliver Larkin. Chomp the Oligarchy.
Have you ever heard of this guy, Bernie Sanders?
APAC. Living wage. Ask people with that in our phone calls.
Organizer, somebody who is in, has been a little tough.
The whole video is a slideshow.
Are the fact that Donald Trump is using ICE as a parent.
Oh no, it's just my feed. Chomp the Oligarchy. All right. I'm pretty sure Hassan did a rally for him today or something. Five months ago, he interviewed him. Oliver gonna lose? I think so. I think so.
For more from our new poll, we're joined by our...
I believe so. All right, we got Chris Rabb, who's one of the DSA candidates that won a few months ago in Pennsylvania. He won a literally D+40 district. He was on Face the Nation.
Our Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, great to see you.
Good morning.
It's a really interesting survey. So give us the big picture. These recent Democratic primaries, they were close, especially out in the Midwest. Are Democrats really split over socialism?
So let me start with the big picture among all Americans, because most Americans say they think the free market is a good thing. They have a more positive view of capitalism than they do of socialism, and they're net negative on socialism. But yeah, by comparison, there is relatively more support or favorability of socialism among Democrats. Not all Democrats, but it is a majority, and higher than compared to capitalism.
Yeah. So again, I really don't think anyone knows what socialism is. That's why they have a more positive view of it, because socialism is represented by people who are young, energetic, and saying we can do way better. And I believe that's resonating because things are tough right now, thanks to Trump's mistakes and his terrible policies. And Democrats are not in power in any way. When you're in the minority, you can't do shit. And so people are pissed. They think the Democrats are weak and should be able to do something else. I don't know what. So I believe most people who are saying that they view socialism favorably in the Democratic Party think of socialism as affordable health care, not having tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt, being able to buy a house before the age of 40. I don't think it's like what socialism actually means. It's basically stronger safety nets and guardrails so people don't fall through the cracks.
Republicans have been crying socialism for so long it's lost all meaning.
I agree. It doesn't even have meaning to the Democrats either. It's just, sure, I'm getting my butt kicked by this economy, so I'm willing to try anything. And if you can get me cheaper health insurance, then awesome.
You ask people what that means, because these are just labels.
Right.
And Democrats tend to describe socialism in terms of outcomes. Well, it's fairness. Well, there's more equality. And they're concerned about income inequality. Other people, other Americans, describe it as government control, and that's in a more negative context. So you can look at polling going back to the 30s, going to the 60s. There's always been these discussions of socialism, but they do tend to come out in tougher economic times. And even in this poll, we find, especially young people, saying,
see, that's interesting what he said there. In tougher economic times, socialism is viewed more favorably. It makes total sense. Capitalism is not working for a lot of people right now. It doesn't mean socialism will be any better. It just means that the system we have right now, which happens to be capitalism, is not working for a lot of people. They are struggling. And so they're open to new ideas. I mean, can you blame them? What do you want them to do? Keep going down this road where there's no end in sight and they can't figure it out? So when times get tough, people are open to new ideas, especially when there's people out there pitching it to them as the like, you know, salvation that, oh man, if we just get socialism, all your problems disappear tomorrow, you know? Really? Yeah. No, socialism would get rid of all the things that you're concerned about and improve your life in every way possible. There's no extra work to do. We just press a few buttons and bada bing, bada boom. The billionaires are gone. The money is spread and you make out like a bandit. Free PS5, only have to work 10 hours a week. You get to kill it, bro.
like they feel opportunities are lesser now than they were for previous generations, that it's harder to get ahead, that the system doesn't work in a fair way. All that's the bigger context.
So as you rightly point out, this is a resurgence or reemergence of socialism. Certainly we've seen that this summer. How is it then splitting the Democratic Party specifically?
So one interesting thing is that it is college-educated Democrats who are relatively more favorable for socialism. And
what's up with that, man? What's that about? You would assume that people who don't have a degree would be much more interested in abandoning the current system, not the college degree people. What the hell?
yes, they have even slightly higher incomes. We've seen
Student loan debt. I don't know. It's interesting. Who are you talking to, Teddy Rupkin? I know you're not talking to me or you're going to get deleted out of this room. There's no room for someone to run their mouth in my chat. So you're in the wrong space if that's what you're doing there. But go ahead and clarify. We'd love to hear how you're right and I'm wrong. And all these people in the poll are wrong. Go ahead.
some of that, too, in the votes that you mentioned, or the vote patterns.
Unemployed, yeah.
In these states. What could be happening there is a sort of relative expectations. Maybe they've got a little more money, but it doesn't buy them as much as they thought. And the other part of it is, you ask people, is the Democratic Party as progressive as you'd like it to be? And that is also pretty even.
Even as they have this argument amongst themselves, ultimately they've got to go find swing voters, maybe even Republican voters, to vote for at least some of these Democrats if they have any hope of retaking control of Congress. So when you ask Americans overall about socialism and how the Democratic Party is sorting itself. What do they say?
Just another angry loser stumbled into my chat. It's funny how people come in here and run their mouths. I could never do it. It just, to me, it's so immature and idiotic. Like, get a life, man. What are you doing? Go be around people you like and agree with. Why come into places like this and cry? Nobody cares. Go live your best life. It's embarrassing, yeah. It's sad. It's just someone screaming for help. That's all I see when I do that. I would not encourage any of you guys to ever go into a channel of people you disagree with and be the one guy causing a ruckus. I mean, it just makes you look dumb. Hang out with the people you like. Life's too short.
So the big question here, I think, is what are the Democrats offering that's in contrast to the Trump economy? And of course, they want this to be a referendum on the Trump economy. But Democrats say they'd like to have bigger ideas from their candidates than smaller or incremental ones. They'd like to see people who they think are fighting for them, almost more affect than anything else. The way that plays going forward is that when you ask people to look back on other times Democrats have been in power,
and they voted for Obama.
It's the consequence of a generation being told to go to school for what you love above everything else. We have a generation with a lot of useless degrees that are upset things aren't working out.
Yeah, that makes sense. People were told just go to college and your life will be perfect, right? I grew up with that mentality. I grew up with you have to go get a degree. It'll open doors and you'll have a career. I was never promised anything for it, but I was told that it would make my life easier and life would be difficult without a degree. That I really didn't see any alternative path. Even when I was acting, I still was in school part-time. Eventually I had to drop out, but I went back as soon as I slowed down on my acting stuff. But yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like, these people feel like they're owed something because they went to school and now they want to abandon the system. But that's strange mentality to me too. It's like this entitled feeling that, well, I was told if I go to college and get a degree, everything will fall into place. That's not life, man. Life's a lot harder than that. You got to make shit happen, man. You got to wake up every day and be the biggest cheerleader and advocate for your life. You can't just be like, wow, I can't get a job or I can't have the career I want. That's not capitalism's fault, man. They're just confused, I guess.
Not necessarily seen as being successful. Remember the last time inflation started under Democrats. So do they need to offer something new in contrast? This is ultimately a fight about what that is.
All right. Anthony, we'll talk a little bit more about this later. Thank you for now.
Thanks.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to Face the Nation. We turn now to Pennsylvania State Representative Chris Rabb. He's the Democratic Party's nominee in the 3rd District of Pennsylvania. That includes parts of Philadelphia.
What is with these Democratic socialist people and their weird glasses? When did this become fashionable? I hate to nitpick here, but this is like the 3rd one we've seen with weird glasses like this. I've never seen anyone in the real world wearing these kind of glasses. I have seen no example of this being fashionable in any way. What is going on, man? Could be worse. I don't get it. I feel like I try to stay up on what's in fashion. I don't engage in it. I'm not some super fashionable person, but I've never seen anything indicating that this is fashionable in any way at all. Where the hell is this coming from? You see it in hospitals. They always got wild glasses on. I think that's because everybody has to wear the same thing with scrubs, and so glasses is one way to differentiate yourself. It's been a thing for a few years. I don't know about that. Librarian Max. To me, it looks terrible. It looks god awful.
He is also a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. Representative, you're not congressman yet, but Representative, thank you for being here this morning. We appreciate it.
Nope.
So I'm curious, and
My
part of the
pleasure.
reason why we wanted to have someone like you here, given that you are the Democratic nominee, but also a member of the DSA, What is a voter getting from a Democrat and a member of the DSA like you that they aren't necessarily getting from a Democrat like Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, who we had on earlier?
That's a great question. I listened to that segment, and it seems like we have a lot in common. We're against corruption. We want to fight for working people. We believe that healthcare is a human right. These are things that we want: increased wages. I support a living wage for all. So I think we have a lot more in common than people would think.
But when he's
Okay, so why are you a democratic socialist?
Today is Sunday, August 16th, 2026. How do you feel about the midterms today?
What up, Pondering? Thank you for the $5. I'm feeling great, man. I think it's 78 days to the midterms. Every day, I feel more and more optimistic. Though, I still think
the worst
Abdul's...
part is the lack of a tie/unbuttoned shirt. Vomiting face emoji. We used to have standards for our empty suits.
Well, I won't give him a hard time of no tie. That's fine. I do think Abdul's got to make some changes, though, man. Come on, he's behind in that Fox News poll. That is concerning to me. And he put out another bullshit internal poll showing him up +8 or something. I guess his campaign learned no lessons from the primary, where they were pumping out +17 polls that turned out to be horrifically overestimated. What plans do you have for coverage? I have no idea. I have nothing planned right now. I was talking to Mooten, Mr. Mooten, about maybe doing something, but nothing in the works yet.
He says that socialism is a failed experiment. What's your response to that?
Well, I imagine he supports Social Security. In a purely capitalistic free market system, we would have no Social Security. We would have no Medicare. We would have no Medicaid. We would have no public education. We would have no interstate highway system. We would not have firefighters. These things are things that are brought to us by different views that have molded us into the nation we are today. It's not one thing. This is not a purely capitalistic society. There's capitalism in China, in Finland, everywhere. Like, this is something that we have to understand is a mixture, and it is an evolution. Pure capitalism has never worked. Communism is not something that we've seen effectively work. What are we doing to make sure that we are moving in the right direction, though? That we are transforming this nation so that it can take care of everyone? How is it that we have our first trillionaire and we still have veterans who are unhoused?
You know,
Okay. I don't really see the argument, though. Why can't we do all that stuff under capitalism? Like Medicare, everything he listed was done under capitalism. So socialism is when government does things. Yeah. Still don't really understand his argument for why he's a socialist yet. Hoping to understand it more here. I mean, if his argument is we're trying to move the Overton window so that some parts of socialism are implemented in society and points to Social Security as an example, I don't know if socialism caused Social Security. Like, I read a little bit about the history of Social Security just to try to understand why the cap was put in place and all that. Obviously people were down bad, but I don't think people were looking to abandon capitalism when that was put into place. I don't know. I don't feel like it was some compromise between socialists and capitalists. He wants to feel special. I guess so. Like, as sad as that is, I really do feel like democratic socialism is just a aesthetic that people are taking on because they don't want to be associated with the Democrats due to Kamala, her loss, and Biden falling apart, and the public sentiment that Democrats aren't doing anything to combat Trump, even though there's nothing they can do right now out of power, right? So that's not a great argument to go out there and tell people, well, we're in the minority, so we can't do anything to combat Trump ruining your life and making everything more expensive. It's just much easier to say, look, this whole system sucks and I support something different. Oh, really? What do you support? It was made to save capitalism, right?
Our news poll out this morning shows that most Democrats have a positive view of socialism, but among all Americans overall, just 35% do. You've made the argument here so far, but I'm curious, what do you do to try to win over skeptics, the 2/3 of the country, who doesn't think this is a good idea?
Well,
let me guess. It's the media's fault that they don't think it's a good idea.
I wasn't running for socialism. I was running for the people of the 3rd Congressional District who want a fighter. And that's something that is more important than the labels that are used in polls, because the poll didn't define socialism. The poll didn't define capitalism. The poll didn't define free market system or free enterprise. It didn't do those. It polled on how people responded to labels that have been put into the ether without any context, historical, any analysis. And I think once you define these things, people can make more informed decisions.
Bro is fighting for his life with that earpiece, man. What is happening with that earpiece? How is it that complicated to get that thing in place? I do not understand what happened there. Also, he's sitting here like taken aback about the label of socialism. You're the one who claimed it, dude. What do you mean? They're just asking you about why so many people don't see it the way you do. He's like, well, it's not about labels. I'm running on these things. It's like, you're the one who took the label. What do you mean? It was a collectively made earpiece.
Running in what is the most Democratic district in America, like 40% Democratic advantage. So it's perhaps understandable, or that it helps explain how a socialist-backed candidate can emerge. But there are others in the Democratic Party writ large who are...
I have to push back, Ed.
Why is that?
I got to push back. You can't conflate Democratic Performance Index with...
How is he still struggling with it? Dude, just give up, man.
People who support a democratic socialist. I ran for months long before anyone mentioned that I was a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. I didn't run for socialism. I ran for the people. Just because people are more likely to vote for Democrats does not mean that they are inherently more inclined to support this ideology or the other. It just showed that in my district, in my race for the Democratic primary, that I came out 14 points ahead in a 4-person race because I was a fighter and I talked about issues that mattered, and socialism did not come up.
Okay, and actually our poll this morning shows that Democratic voters overall are looking for fighters or people who are...
But why is he so irritated about talking about socialism? I don't get it. Like, you are the one who claims democratic socialism. Why are you so upset? You think he'd be thrilled to talk about it and share the joys of it and why he is proud to be a member of DSA and what that means? I mean, what the hell? What's he talking about? Distraction to solely talk about socialism? Yeah, but I mean, he's got to know that it's going to come up in this interview. He's one of the few DSA candidates, and it's a big talk of the town right now. It's weird to be irritated by them asking you about the most relevant thing as to why you're here, you know? It's like these guys want to claim this title, but then they don't want to talk about it. Nobody brought up socialism to me. Listen, we're not asking you about your past here or something like that. We're asking you about your current platform that you're associating yourself with for whatever reason. I don't know. Guy seems kind of like a dick, I'll be honest.
Are certainly promising to do so. I do want to play, however, something that former ambassador, former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel said this morning on Sunday morning in conversation with our colleague Robert Costa regarding the progressive versus rest of the party sort of split or discussion that y'all are having. Take a listen to what he said.
This, again, I'm about flipping red districts to blue. I'm not about taking blue districts and making them midnight blue. You want to see a raise in the minimum wage? Winning over Democratic districts is not the way to get it there. You got to win Republican districts.
What's your response to the mayor's strategic argument there?
I think listening to folks who have been institutionalists and corporate Dems is probably the wrong thing to do when what your own poll shows is that there's an exhaustion, there is anger at centrists and institutionalists, and this anti-establishment moment means that we want bold things that are not left or right, but what are the things that are going to move people forward? And hey, take me to Kentucky. I think I can make that case pretty strongly. And as someone who has 5 generations in Kentucky, I think this is something that transcends blue districts.
Well, we've seen no evidence of that, sir. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the races outside of yours, but we have no evidence of this working outside of D plus 40. I'm sorry. Came close in Michigan. Came close. He could have just said, yeah, I agree. Flipping red states is good too. I mean, I'm with Rahm Emanuel in the sense that none of this stuff is going to get anywhere near being implemented if we don't win those red districts. And this guy's claiming he could go to Kentucky and win people over coming from his D plus 40 district. Like, come on, bro. You gotta come back down to earth, man. Like, first of all, it's possible that DSA policy could resonate with people in a red state, but you're not the messenger for that with your red glasses coming from your D plus 40 Philadelphia district, right? Like, you're not the guy to go do that. That's not for you. Like you obviously you're coming from another world, dude. That the hubris to think that he could go down to red Kentucky and win. That's fascinating to me. He should go to Kentucky. Yeah, I'd love to see him run down there. Kyle Kalinske is also having an issue with his earpiece the other day. Is it a DSA thing? Probably.
Okay. On the
okay, says Ed O'Keefe. Okay.
Issue of institutionalists in the party, I'm curious, are you someone who would vote for Hakeem Jeffries to be Speaker? Should Democrats take majority next January?
Nope. Sorry about that. He hasn't asked me. But I can tell you this, he's not going to run unless we secure the new majority, which is what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on making sure we have good, progressive candidates who are winning in these primaries and who will win on November 3rd. And when we get a new Democratic majority, I would love to have that conversation with them, person to person. We have not yet met.
Okay.
He hasn't asked me yet. That I was going to say I'm disappointed in that from Hakeem because it sounded like he hasn't reached out to him, but he didn't say that. He just said he hasn't asked me, which leads me to believe that Hakeem has probably talked to him just to be friendly and maybe talk, congratulate him or whatever. So I'm okay with that. I was about to have a totally different response, but then I thought about it. I'm not sure Hakeem asking somebody like this to vote for him as leader of the Dems or speaker would be appropriate yet. But I think guys like this are going to be won over and we come united on January 3rd without any issues, man. I really don't see a big deal there. That's a no unless I get something. I mean, it's not bad to ask for something. You know what I mean? Why give it away for free when you can tease a little bit? Why not?
Okay. Now, look, I know you're a Democratic candidate for Congress. You are, however, a member of the DSA, and there are opponents of that movement who point to the failed socialist governments in Latin America as proof that socialism doesn't always work. And the DSA just in the last few days put out a statement commemorating the 100th birthday of Fidel Castro, which says in part he was an organizer, a fighter, and endures as a stalwart symbol of anti-imperialist struggle and self-determination for the global South.
These guys just can't do anything right. What the hell, man? Really? Just think about your average American and what they think of Fidel Castro. It's not good. They think of how miserable Cuba is, and they don't think that America is responsible for that. They just think he sucks, It's like, why? They just do everything possible to piss people off, man. This will surely resonate in Florida. Yeah, I'm sure the people of Kentucky will love this message. Amazing. Like, yeah, I think you could put this in the evidence pile that DSA is a Republican op at this point. Look at this. Like, what? Who thought this would be a good idea, man? 80 days before the midterms. Let's put this out. DSA would be 50% more effective if they ditched the LARPy worship of Castro and Stalin. I could give DSA a long list of things to stop doing that would make them more effective. They could be a powerhouse if they actually gave a damn and were focused. They could take over. They truly could.
Do you agree with that sentiment? And does it concern you that this type of celebration of Fidel Castro is what might validate people's concerns with the DSA?
I am not concerned with how people construe this organization. I'm interested in finding what we have in common so that we can move this country forward based on bold policies, which that poll suggests people are wanting, irrespective of political ideology or generation. The other thing I want to mention, too, is, and this is something that I hear centrist and establishment players talk about, is, well, if we want to reach these people who are outside of, blue districts, how about we actually focus on those folks who live in highly populated blue districts who don't show up because they're so exhausted and disaffected with the Democratic Party? If we reach those folks who are inclined to vote for the Democrats, but don't because we're not fighting for them, we have a far more likely chance of winning than reaching out to folks who under no circumstances would consider folks who embrace values like healthcare is a human right, or housing is a human right, or not having a trillionaire class. There's some people we're not going to move, but many people we can, and I think it's not about left or right. It's about moving whole communities forward in the most meaningful ways. And as it relates to these statements about other folks in other countries, I hope we're all anti-imperialist.
Just want to say, lots of the left candidates ask for a big tent. I agree. Big tent is good. But folks gotta remember Big Tent also includes deeply conservative Dems too. When we win and the coalition is built, no one is going to get to be selfish. I'm confident Hakeem can pull everyone.
Wow. Too long. Got cut off, bro. Yeah, shorten that shit. I've told you before, Hybrid. Come on, man. Pull it together.
These statements about other folks in other countries, I hope we're all anti-imperialist. I hope we're all anti-fascist. I don't think these are particularly controversial.
Anti-imperialist. My God. This language needs to be dropped completely if DSA wants to get off the launching pad at all, man. Nobody wants to hear this bullshit outside of a very small circle of LARPers, man. Holy shit, dude. Like, come on, man. Like, this is so problematic to call what America does imperialism. You could make the argument. Well, but wait a second now. Hold on. Nobody wants to hear that. That's the thing. Like, people take it as anti-American. Like, come on. The language is just so awful with some of these guys. Like, they're never, ever going to grow with this kind of language.
Stances.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. You are a big part of the debate in your party about who it is should be focused on and how to do it, and that's why we wanted you here. Representative Rabb, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
And again, you can make the argument that America engages in imperialism, has in the past, and continues to do so. The problem is when you start talking like that, people think you hate America. They're like, oh, so you hate our way of life. Got it. They're like, no, I just don't think we should disturb other countries, and we cause a lot of problems around the world. They're like, nobody sees it like that. They're like, oh, no, we're protecting our interests and our friends. It's like, no, we're not. Look what happened here. And they're like, dude, I don't got time for your fucking history lesson on some South American country. It's just, it's not going to get off the ground. It's not going to defeat gravity. But notice how he ran away from this statement, right? He's like, oh, I don't know if people put out a statement. All of these guys do that. None of them will own anything DSA does. It's so weird. They all distance themselves from this organization that they so proudly claim to be a member of. How can you do that? Like every single one of them. Francesca Hong, this guy, they're always like, oh, that's not really my thing, or I don't support this, or I don't know about that. It's like, dude, this is DSA, man. What do you mean? Some of them will try to play some bullshit like, I'm a member of the local chapter, not the national. And then you go look at the local chapter and it's the same thing. There's no difference between them and the national chapter. That's why I think DSA and the people who claim it are just using the aesthetic to distance themselves from other Democrats so that they can be seen as fighters and win people over. But they don't want anything to do with most of the DSA platform. I did not like this guy in this interview at all. I want to see a softer side of DSA. I don't know what it is with leftists that they just cannot be nice. They're like 99% of them are just head so like they think so highly of themselves. They look so down on everyone else, and you could just feel the condescension from these people. Like, it's just, my God, man, why can't you just be chill and like try to win people over? Don't you think the fighter types will be dicks? Like, you don't have to be a dick to everybody, you know? Why would I want to hang out with any of these people? They're all so angry and full of themselves, and like there's just no humility. There's no understanding at all why anyone would disagree with them. It's as if everyone else is a moron and they've got it all figured out, and you know, it's absolute insanity to me, man. I just don't know how these guys can appeal to normal people in any way at all. Like, you could never talk like this in a room full of normal people and they would nod along like, yeah, man, totally, bro. I got it. Like, just those glasses alone would get you laughed out of the room. I hate to pick on something so stupid, but like, you're going to try to talk to people in Kentucky with those bright ass red glasses on from Philadelphia. They're going to be like, what? They can't because they don't know what normal people struggle with. Well, I'm sure plenty of people in Philadelphia are struggling, but it's just weird to offer them some sort of like pie in the sky dream. Like, hey, man, I know this system sucks and everybody here is getting screwed. So why don't we completely abandon it and we'll do something else and it could solve all our problems, even though I have no evidence of that except some programs from 100 years ago. Seems like they hate 85% of America. They do seem to have a lot of hatred. Zoran also likable, but more exception than the rule. I would agree with that, but at the same time, anti-Semitism is up in New York City. Like, more than half of the hate crimes in the city last year were due to anti-Semitism. Why is that? What's going on there? I would argue that the language of leaders has quite a bit to do with it. And just because you say you care about Jewish people once in a while and you're going to do everything you can to protect them, but then spend 90% of your time shitting on Israel and talking about genocide and all that, it's like, okay, well, who's getting the blowback on this, you know? What else can you explain for so much anti-Semitism in New York City? I mean, is it because there's more Jewish people there? I mean, this is like per capita. I don't know. It's them applying failed class consciousness to everyone that isn't them. I think they're just taking advantage of a moment in that Trump has done a very bad job and people are struggling. And the Democratic Party is not in power and can't do anything. And they are just taking advantage of that. They're saying the Democrats are useless because they could be doing something to push back against Trump, though they never talk about what that is or how they would do it differently. And they're just pitching these big pie in the sky ideas that they have no plan on how to get anywhere near enacted. And they're just preying on people who are struggling and saying we can do better, and you shouldn't have to live like this, and you should check out democratic socialism. I mean, to me, it's like no different than Scientologists or whatever, just people with, trying to reel people in. And I think it's going to be short-lived too. I don't know, man. I don't understand the mind of a leftist. I've hung out with some. I know some. I still do not understand why you would be a leftist. I do not get it. I've never met a successful leftist. I've met some LARPers, like content creators who are doing very well and pretend to be leftists. But they don't live a life as a leftist in any way at all. But I don't understand why anyone would be a leftist. I just don't get it. To me, it's usually people that are struggling and they're just looking for like an easy solution. I've had my struggles. I was horrifically in debt at one point in my life, and I never thought for a second about, man, if only capitalism could be replaced, I would be in a better position. Like, it never even crossed my mind. Now, do we need to have stronger safety nets and guardrails and a better distribution of wealth in this country to make sure more people have a chance and aren't struggling? Absolutely. Absolutely. This is not working for a lot of people, and the system is very broken right now. But it doesn't mean we abandon capitalism. I've just never thought that. Like, oh man. I encourage people, let's get to Bernie Sanders and AOC's version of capitalism. And then if it's still not good enough, you will be able to convince people to go the next step. But none of these people want to put in the work to get there. None of them want to work on those things. They just want to press some buttons and everything will be fixed. That's not how life works. You mean Hassan living in a $3 million villa, driving Porsche and wearing 10K in clothes, not living the lefty lifestyle? This house is worth a lot more than that now, dude. No, they'll tell you that it's okay to be rich under socialism. Like it's always these rich people that are lecturing people about we need to go to socialism, right? The biggest beneficiaries of capitalism are the ones that love to tell you how socialism would fix problems. And it's almost like they feel guilty of their success. And so they want to somehow be the champion of the people. I don't know. It's like Tom Steyer. Why was Tom Steyer the progressive champion in the California governor's race? The guy's a multi-billionaire who spent $250 million of his own money. I love the argument that Abdul El-Sayed was up against $60 million of outside money. Javier Becerra, the moderate, took on Tom Steyer's $250 million of money and won. Yet there was no talk of that money being spent by Tom Steyer from the same people who screamed about AIPAC money. Look at Shoykot, the guy who tried to run in Nancy Pelosi's primary and got destroyed. He ran on the Hassan ticket. Hassan went out there for an event. The guy's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, or at least tens of millions of dollars. He's like an early leader at Stripe, the payment processing app. And even Abdul El-Sayed, he's not DSA, but he's in the 1%. His family reported over almost $700,000 in income last year. The 1% is like $650,000 a year. What's with all these rich people telling people that the system that made them rich is failing and that they want to change it? I don't think they actually believe that. They really want to struggle to feel better about themselves, I guess. I don't know. I'm just kind of sick of it, I guess. But I appreciate the energy and the you know, the reaching out to communities that may feel left behind. I don't like these false promises that they're going to be able to change anything, because they're not. They have no plan to implement any of this stuff. Now, if they just want to move the Overton window so that we can get more programs like Social Security, then I get that. But I usually don't hear them saying stuff like that. This guy, Chris Rabb, hinted at that at least. I don't know. I don't know. Let me see if there's anyone else I want to see here. Andy Bashir was on earlier, I guess. The Round Table. Face the Nation. Bashir says the U.S. needs to fix the darn government. Fix the darn government. Don Bacon? No.
You're telling me owning property in Dubai doesn't make me working class?
My understanding is that his wife's family sold some property that she received some of the proceeds of, and that's what led to that. Not that him and his wife were property owners in Dubai. That's my understanding. But I understand your point. I do understand your point. Ruben Gallego, he was also very hesitant to release his taxes until pressed. And then it was kind of vague what was even going on with his taxes, right? Like there was like 300,000 in other, something like that. I think a lot of people are also tired about hearing just one more guardrail and capitalism will work over and over again. Well, my question is, what are people looking for? You know, like what do people actually want? Because I'm not sure that socialism could even deliver that. I don't even know if people have thought about like what could actually come out of this. I don't know. Hassan Piker rallies with far left Dems in Florida. Okay. Do they have any footage? Oh, just Hassan sitting at his house. I don't know if there's anything else really worth watching. I'm not really that interested in anything I'm seeing here. CNN's pretty bad about uploading clips from State of the Union, their Sunday show. As expected, there's none. I have a CNN clips channel, though. The Weekend. You've seen one moderate versus 20 progressives. Tim Pool's thing? I haven't watched it. I probably won't. I did see one clip from it. I'm pretty sure I was invited to be at that, but I was unable to do it. Tim seemed pretty sensitive not built for that environment. But that one clip of him storming off, that's stupid. I know he's trying to be performative, but you just look dumb if you're the guy in the middle and you walk off. That's so stupid. What are you doing, man? You got to shout down that person. Can't just give up like that. Did you see Andrew Wilson's $300,000 Femdon session? I watched some of it, and it was like watching two idiots slap each other. I saw the part on Destiny subreddit where the clip where Candace Owens asked Andrew Wilson to name any of the charges, and he couldn't, which I think that's a smart gotcha. But then he said murder, which is an obvious one, and she said, no, it's not murder, it's aggravated murder. So then I said, okay, that's interesting. And she was so proud of herself, as if she had dunked on him. Well, I looked up the difference between aggravated murder, and guess what? Aggravated murder involves killing somebody, just like murder. The only difference is if it's premeditated or it's against a public official or something like high profile that you put a lot of planning into. And it's not as common, but it's murder. So two idiots slapping each other, like he said it murder, she said no. Yes, he was charged with murder, aggravated murder. So two morons slapping each other for an hour. Like watching a flat earther debate an anti-vaxxer. Yeah. That nitpicking was a bait to provoke him to push on naming all charges. Yeah, I mean, he's an idiot for showing up, not knowing the charges. I mean, how could you talk about the case and not know what he was charged with? That's like at the beginning of every indictment, you know? It's kind of a big deal. But I also don't think it's that big of a deal either. Like, who cares about the charges? Like, what does that matter? I understand it looks good in the debate format there, but it's pretty stupid. Like, oh, I got you. You didn't know the charges. Like, oh, okay. Wow. I think he thought he was just going to show up and make her look stupid by asking her to present her evidence. And she would just simply say, well, I've got a guy who emailed me who's involved in intelligence. I can't reveal who that is or what it was. Oh, okay. Great argument. That's awesome. So where do we go from? It's like, no offense, and I'm not trying to equate this at all to Andrew or Candace, but when I debated Z about Ken Martin staying on as the head of the DNC, and she said, I'm talking to people at the DNC and they're telling me that there's a lot of grumbling and that his departure is imminent. And how could I argue that? She can't reveal who said it. She cannot point to a statement or anything public. It's just, yeah, my source on the inside. And I don't think that's a great debate strategy. Like, I understand revealing that, but at the same time, you got to understand that's not good evidence for your case. And that's like Candace's whole thing, is just saying, I've got high level people contacting me about things and it'll all come out eventually. Like, okay. Okay. Like, how do you even argue that? You know? My evidence, my argument in the Ken Martin debate was, you've got people like Ro Khanna and Senator Van Hollen on national television saying Ken Martin should stay. And so those are prominent voices in the Democratic Party, and I see no evidence that he's being pushed out in any way. So I don't think it's happening. And he already survived like 2 weeks at that point, and the report came out, and you know, that kind of stuff dies down as time goes on. So that was my argument. And her argument was, well, I know people on the inside that are saying he's on his way out. I was like, okay. I mean, again, I love Z. I have no problem with her, but it's like, how do I debate that? Cannot be confirmed. It's not evidence. It's an anecdote. Yeah, I would not bring up something like that. How many months? I don't know if she gave like a long range end to her prediction, but it's been over 2 months. I believe our debate was at the end of May. So like the end of July was the 2-month mark. So it's been a couple months. To her credit, I have seen some articles now. Well, I haven't seen articles, but I've seen more grumbling, like articles claiming sources grumbling more about Martin. Like there was something that came out couple weeks, like 2 weeks ago, that I forgot what it was, but it was where like he threw his phone on the desk or something. $119 views, not bad.
Democrats
can't watch this on here. It'll get flagged on YouTube. Moderate? Oh, Jubilee. Did they call him a moderate? Did they call him a moderate in the thumbnail? Okay, Tim Pool versus 20 liberals. They did? Where? They did earlier today? Give me a break. There's nothing moderate about this guy. They changed the title. I don't know any of these people. I know a couple of them. I don't know who these people are that they got to do this. Is that Evan that I know? No. Wait, is this? Yeah, okay. I know Evan. He's cool. I've heard of Enemy Charlie. I know David. Mason. Santana. That's it. I don't know anybody else. Mason was the guy who came into chat defended Hassan. Yeah, Mason loves Hassan, but he hates Mike from PA and makes fun of him in public. So I'm fine with that. I'll take that. You got to take the good with the bad. Ah, yes, noted moderate Tim Pool. What a joke of a title. The Rage Bait title is nuts, dude. Jubilee has zero shame. Wow. It's all about the title in the comments. Ain't nothing moderate about Tim Pool. Wow, every comment that's at the top is about him being called a moderate. Tim Pool is like really hard to watch. I can't imagine this went well for him in any way. Needs to get over his beanie thing. He should just go to Turkey and get fake hair, man. And take off his beanie and be like, yeah, I'm losing the beanie and I'm going to show my normal hair now. It's like, okay, I mean, I'm sure he just thinks it's part of his brand or whatever, but yeah, it's pretty cringe. I don't think he needs it. Like, I don't think Tim Pool's beanie does anything for him. I understand it's part of his brand, but yeah, his beard is all fucked up in this, and he just showed up. Like, dude, how can you not go to a barber before your big Jubilee appearance and just say, hey man, can you help? Can you clean me up? Like, I want to keep it long, but like, just clean me up. Like, right? Crisp lines. And what is with this fucking basement dweller beard, man? This is so bad, dude. Too insecure about his balding. To clean his beard up? Oh, to get his fake hair. Looks gross? Yeah, man. Like, good God, bro. And that's not a photo that Jubilee took from his video or something. Jubilee has a cameraman, like a still photographer, that will take photos at the filming of the person who's in the middle, plus people that debated. They'll ask you to come over and take some reaction shots, like pretending you're reacting to something, you know, make some faces for the thumbnail specifically. That's after digital. Yeah, that's after, like, that's him showing up knowing he's going to be on camera and photographed. Oh, weird. Tim at his best. Yes. Asking if he uses an AI filter on his show. He looks so much better, so much worse here. You know, long David lasted 2 minutes, 3 minutes, maybe. Santana lasted like 3 minutes. Mason was great at this. Did you apply? I was invited to be a part of this, I think. I don't know if it's the one, but I was invited to be invited. I was invited to be a part of a big surrounded. They didn't tell me who it was. They said it was like a more centrist person and they wanted a range of people on the left. I'm lucky that I don't have to apply. I have directors from Jubilee and the main cast in person reach out to me, which is super cool. I'm on the, like, a short list, I guess. 52. 55. Mason made him rage quit.
Civil War's happening.
I thought this was great. Mason brought a prop, put on a beanie, and Tim walked away. So what happened? He walked off and then he just came back. Okay. What a crybaby. Yeah, I don't know who most of these people are. Very white male audience, very white male set of debaters. Is that Charlie person? Right. David was there. Yeah, David's cool. He's super aggressive though. Holy shit, man. One of the debaters made fun of Tim's beanie. Yeah, that was Mason. Oh, Santana got up there again. I don't like when they let people go twice because there's like 20 people there, man. Like, I mean, maybe nobody else wanted to go, but that's tough when people go twice and some people never get to go up. Wait, what? Mason had his beanie on. I can't watch this. It'll get flagged on YouTube. That's the only reason why I'm jumping around just looking at stills. Who's this guy? Civil War section made no sense. Nice. Okay. Well, it's what it is. I'm out of here, guys. Thank you all for hanging out, man. Another fun Sunday stream. I appreciate people stopping by. Thank you for the super chats. That's awesome. We got a bunch of those today. I'll be back tomorrow evening, and we'll see what's going on. So have a great night, everybody. I'll see you guys soon.